You are live.
Okay, great. Welcome everyone to the October 6th, 2021 Rochester Preservation Board hearing. And at this time, I will turn it over to the chair.
Great. Thanks very much, Matt. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the October 6th, 2021 Preservation Board hearing for the City of Rochester. My name is Christopher Coretta. I'll be chairing this evening's meeting. I'm an associate real estate broker living in the historic Grove Place Preservation District. I also sit on the executive committee for the Landmark Society of Western New York, as well as serve as a trustee on the board. We're meeting tonight under extraordinary circumstances due to state and local emergency orders requiring social distancing. We amended the Rochester Preservation Board bylaws to allow us to conduct this hearing as authorized by the governor's and mayor's emergency orders and to waive other requirements in order to proceed with this online hearing. These waivers permit us to hold this hearing by teleconference with no in-person attendance, allow applicant presentations by teleconference, and require all public comments, both in favor of and opposed to the application, to be submitted in writing by email or by hard copy document mailed to the zoning office or deposited in the secure drop box located in the link entrance of City Hall. All written public comments were all required to be submitted by 5 p.m. yesterday. Although this hearing's been altered from some of our normal procedures, many things remain the same. All the normal notifications for this hearing, including mailed notice, publication, and the posting of notice, were followed. All the normal timeframes for applicant presentations and comments in favor of and opposed to the application remain the same. And most importantly, this board will hear, review, and make decisions about all the applications with the same diligence and using the same standards as required by the zoning code. Before we begin, I'd like to remind everyone that when a case is called, the applicant will be allowed 15 minutes to present. Keep in mind that all board members have visited your site and carefully read your applications. The applications are posted on the city website and available for the public to review. All applicants were advised to ensure that their applications were complete and included all information that they intend to present at this hearing tonight. As the application is presented, staff will, as reasonably as possible, show the pages of the application the applicant is addressing. Following our normal procedure, the board members may ask the applicant questions. If during the hearing the board determines that substantial new evidence has been submitted by the applicant during the presentation or is given in response to questions by the board, the case will be adjourned to the next announced hearing date to allow the public to review the new evidence and to submit additional comments. After the applicant's presentation is completed, staff will read into the record any comments received after the comment deadline that are not already posted on the city website. After all the comments have been read, the applicant will have 5 minutes to offer any testimony in rebuttal. The board will commence deliberations and voting after the public hearing of each agenda item, with the exception of any applications that are being adjourned. Please also note that if your case is approved today, a written decision will be mailed to you within 15 business days. The decision will inform you of the next steps to complete the approval process. Before we open the first case, please note that we're all volunteers. I'd like each of the board members to confirm their presence for purposes of establishing a quorum for this hearing and to introduce themselves and mention their area of expertise. We'll do this in alphabetical order. Isaac Brocker, please.
Hi, good evening. My name is Isaac Brocker. I'm an architect here in Rochester, and I live in the Browncroft Historic District.
Thanks, Isaac. We'll go to Ed Kane, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ed Kane. I'm a resident of the East Avenue Preservation District.
Thank you, Ed. Gerald Gam.
Good evening, everybody. We live in the East Avenue Preservation District as well. I am a professor at the University of Rochester. I teach a course in urban history and politics. And like Chris, I sit on the board of the Landmark Society.
Thank you, sir. David Matthews is not with us, right? Sorry. And last but not least, but also our co-chair, Kirsten Solberg.
My name is Kirsten, and I am an architect, and I live in the Browncroft neighborhood.
Great. Staff?
All right, very good. We'll get started. Case number 1, file A-001-2122.
Matt, we usually have the staff introduce themselves to it.
Well, that's news to me. Hi, everyone. I'm Matt Simonis. I am interim staff to the Rochester Preservation Board.
Thank you, Tom. Tom, you're next.
My name's Tom Worth. I'm with the City Law Department and legal counsel to the board. Juan,
Good evening, everyone. Juan Linares, support staff for building codes and plan review.
Okay. Thank you, members and staff. Matthew, if you'd like to call the first case, please.
Yes, case number 1 is file A-001-2122. The case type is a certificate of appropriateness. The applicants are Minister Franklin D. Florence, Central Church of Christ, as well as Clark Bono, the project contractor. The address is 101 South Plymouth Avenue. The zoning district is the CCD-B, Center City Base District. This is a local landmark, and the purpose is to remove and replace an existing slate and asphalt roof with new materials of a different design.
Great, Matt. And have all the board members visited the property? I guess I can put that into record. All board members have visited the property. Thank you, Matt. Next, I'll swear the applicants in. Minister Clifford Florence, do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Minister Florence, there should be a option to unmute. There you go.
Minister Florence, do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Minister, can you hear me?
Looks like he's unmuted. Clark, are you there?
yes,
You're not physically with the minister, though, are you?
no, I'm separate.
Should we, Minister, can you, let's give it a shot again. Minister, can you hear me? Can we go ahead with Mr. Bono?
Hold on 1 second. Let's try to at least get him on the phone, and then we can put it up to one of our microphones. I'm wondering if there's an audio issue.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Let me, I'll call him. 1 moment.
Yeah. Yep. Let's try to call him, and then we can at least get him on audio with Clark, the project contractor. Anna will go ahead and do that.
In the meantime, I can swear Mr. Bono in.
Yes.
Bono,
Yep.
do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do,
Thank you.
yes.
Anna is making a phone call to the minister right now to try to connect with him.
You might want to comment on that.
You don't know where my big green.
Black.
Well, no, it's a accordion thing with all the stuff in it for this. Huh?
Or something.
Yeah. But it is, see what's, there's something, a name and that one. Yeah. Is it brownstone or what? What is it called?
Brown.
Yeah.
That's where you use the location.
I get it.
Take this out.
Worth, can I ask you a question? How much time do we normally allow for this kind of thing with 7 other cases waiting?
I don't recall that we've had an applicant that hasn't been able to reach us. Let's give it a couple more minutes and then
Do we want to start with case number 2 and then go back to case 1?
Can I just make a quick announcement, Minister Florence, if you can hear us, I just put 4 different phone numbers that you can call in. They're toll-free phone numbers. They'll work for this Zoom meeting. If you call one of those numbers, you can just speak directly from your phone and participate in the meeting that way. So if you can hear this, I recommend calling from one of those numbers and you'll be in the meeting. You'll probably join the meeting muted, so you would just press *6 to unmute yourself.
They'll be listed right on the right side under the chat. Tom, do you want to go to case number 2 and we'll work on connecting with him to go back to it?
yes, let's do that.
Okay. Matt, would you mind calling case 2?
Absolutely. Okay, case number 2 is file number A-005-2122. It is a certificate of appropriateness located at 441 East Avenue. The applicant is Jeff Sager of 441 East Avenue LLC. The zoning district is R3 High Density Residential District with an overlay office district and in the East Avenue Preservation District. And the purpose is to redesign the rear entry to the building for installation of a new entry vestibule, canopy and railings, reconfigure the front parking area, and to install new building mounted and building number signage, and to replace signboards on an existing and previously approved monument sign structure. And just making sure.
Both Jamie, do we have both Jamie and Jeff with us? I see John and Jeff.
John August and Jeff Sager are here to represent the applicant.
I will go ahead and swear you both in. We'll start with Jamie. Jamie what?
Jamie's not here tonight.
Oh, sorry.
Just Jeff and John.
Jeff and John. All right, we'll start with Jeff. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Jeff Sager, do you solemnly affirm the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. And John August, do you solemnly affirm the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Great. The board is ready for your presentation. You have 15 minutes, please.
Thank you. Good evening, board members. My name is John August. I'm part of the ownership group of 441 East Avenue LLC. Jeff is here tonight. He's a partner of mine and handled all the design and development to date. I represented in Jeff's absence on August 4th. I appeared in front of this board. The discussion regarding the replacement of the tree in front of our new tenant entrance was tabled. We also tabled a request, or held, excuse me, a request to add a L logo for Lawley onto the building. We've withdrawn that request for any additional signage, and we're just here tonight to request the reduction in the landscape island and the replacement of the tree in the existing island with another shade tree moved just 10 feet to the south. The current island and tree are directly in front of our new tenant entry. This new entry will become the main entry for the remaining 5,500 feet of the building. This entry formerly served as just a rear entrance for a single tenanted building that was occupied by the Jewish Community Federation. We've been marketing this property for over a year now, and we've showed many people through the premises. The hidden entry has been a concern to all that have looked through it. It's been found to be unappealing, difficult to find and identify, and concerns as we had with some of our city properties about safety. It's dark in this corner. And again, by and large, uninviting for guests and employees. This entryway, it's really about 4 steps down from the grade, is only 5 feet wide. And this tree sits inside that 5-foot corridor if you were to just expand right out from the entry. The roots have been heaving the asphalt and the sidewalk, and we just recently topped that part of the parking lot, cut some of the roots to make sure they wouldn't continue to ruin the sidewalk as best we could. And again, were able to top coat the front part of the parking lot. The landscape architect, Heinrich Fischer, does not believe, as we don't, that pruning really can open up the area. Heavy prune could open up the area properly. And we worry that a severe pruning of a tree that's this mature would not be good for it. Even if it was trimmed down and pruned tightly, the trunk would still be in the entry area. We are requesting to reduce this one island, which is plus or minus about 10 feet to reduce the island, and plan a replacement tree 10 feet to the south away from that entry. We amended the application from our last visit to spec a honey locust street keeper as the replacement tree. It will be installed with a caliper of at least 2.5 inches, should have a height of 12 to 14 feet at planting. And when it's mature, it will have a 20-foot canopy similar to the canopy of the existing tree. The street keeper honey locust is specifically spec'd because the roots grow more vertically than a normal honey locust or other hardwoods. So we feel in this area where it's being put between impervious surface, it's a much better application that will serve us well for the future. We've invested nearly $4 million on this project, and the rear tenant is essential to our success. It's going to cost us probably $20,000 to $25,000 for this modification, but we feel strongly that we need it to make this project a success. The lot is well landscaped on all the sides with mature trees and shrubs throughout. And we are here tonight to answer any questions, propose the alternate tree, and respectfully request approval of this minor change to finish up this project. Jeff may have a few other words. Otherwise, we're both here to answer any questions you might have.
Just another comment is the lower level space that we've been marketing, because of the size of that tree on that area, really cuts off all the light that lower level space can get. The other side with the club next door is fully treed and fully covered. So those windows on that side do not receive much light. This tree, so because it's so close to the building, is cutting off some of that natural light to that lower level. And it's a big part of our marketing piece to be able to show that lower level as not as first floor space and brighten up the space to people. That's all I have.
Great. Well, thank you for the presentation. We're going to go through the board members and see if they have any questions for you. We'll start with Isaac Brocker. Any questions for the applicant, Isaac?
No, I don't have any questions.
Thank you. Ed Kane, any questions?
No, I don't have any questions either.
All right. I'm next. I don't have any questions. I think it's a great project. Really nice addition to East Avenue. You guys are doing a great job. Gerald Gam, any questions?
I also have no questions. This is really responsive to the questions that we raised last time. Thank you.
And Kirsten Solberg, any questions?
My only question is, the application mentions an L logo sign. Is that something that's also being presented tonight?
That's been withdrawn, Karsten. That might come up at another date.
Okay.
But at this point, it's off the table.
Okay, thank you. Then no questions.
Thank you. If the board has no further questions, we'll go to staff. Matt, if there's any public testimony or statements to be read into the record.
Yes, there was one individual signed up. Let me see if he was able to call in. Do not believe he is here. Bear with me, everyone. We've got a lot going on in the background here. No, it appears that the member of the public that was going to come did not call in. No, there's no one here for public comment.
All right. Then Matt, if you would be so kind as to close the case.
Let me ask, are there any late arriving letters that came in since the staff report was done, but before yesterday's deadline?
Yes, there was one additional public comment, which was posted on the city's land use board interactive map for public review, as well as provided to the board members.
Okay.
Okay, anything else, Matthew?
No, I have nothing else. So you can.
All right, did you want to, okay, and if you wanted to read the deliberation statement, if you could.
So this will begin the deliberations for case number 2 on tonight's agenda, 441 East Avenue. This is a certificate of appropriateness case.
Yeah, and just during this part, since the hearing is closed, there won't be any more testimony from the applicants or the public, and it will just be the members deliberating on making a decision.
Okay, thank you, Tom. We're going to start with Isaac Brocker. Isaac, what are your thoughts on this case?
I don't have a problem with what they're proposing. I think they're using a similar species of tree, so I would approve the project.
Great, thank you. Ed Kane, your thoughts, please.
I believe they addressed the issues that the board raised at the last hearing, and I'm fine with the proposal.
Great, thanks, Ed. I would support the proposal the way it is. As I said earlier, I think it's a great addition to East Avenue. They're doing a beautiful job. I think it's very appropriate. And I think it follows our guidelines. Gerald Gam. Someone's coming in. If they could just mute while we're deliberating would be appreciated.
Sorry about that. It's the minister for the first case. He's just on 2 devices, but we're good.
Thank you, Hannah. I'm sorry, Gerald.
I agree with you and Ed and Isaac. I completely support this application. We always want to get additional information when somebody is proposing to take down a mature tree, which is why we raised the question when they first came before the board. But I think the applicant has not only explained now carefully why the current tree interferes with the plans for the building, but is proposing to put up a new tree that in about 10 feet away, that is still going to provide shade and greenery to the site.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Kirsten, your thoughts, please.
I agree. I think the species is appropriate and the need to let light in and its relocation all makes sense.
All right. Can I get a motion? Kirsten, would you give me a motion, please?
Sure. Motion for case number 2, file number A-005-21-22, return case for certificate of appropriateness to redesign. Let's see, to
Remove and replace.
remove and replace the previously existing tree, parking island tree, and approve the new location and the species as provided in the application.
Second.
So a motion has been made by Karsten Solberg and properly seconded by Gerald Gam. I'll call each member out for a vote, and we will start with Isaac Brocker. Do you vote yea or nay for that motion, Isaac?
Yay.
Isaac Brocker votes yea. Ed Kane, yea or nay for the motion, please?
Yay.
Ed Kane votes yea. Next would be myself, Christopher Coretta. I vote yea for the motion. Gerald Gam?
I vote yay.
Thank you. Gerald Gam votes yea for the motion. And Kirsten Solberg?
Yay.
Thank you. Kirsten Solberg votes yea. That's a 5 unanimous vote. Thank you very much for the presentation and for the work. We'll close that case. Matthew, whenever you're ready, if you wouldn't mind calling the next case, please.
Yes, it looks like we are able to circle back with case number 1, and I'm hoping you all can see my screen with the staff report for it. Okay, case number 1, I'm going to read into the record here again, file A-001-2122. It's a certificate of appropriateness at 101 South Plymouth Avenue. The applicants are Minister Florence, Central Church of Christ, as well as Clark Bono, the project contractor. Property is located in the CCD B Center City Base District. It is also a local landmark, and the purpose is to remove and replace an existing slate and asphalt roof with new materials of a different design.
Great. So let me just go back to this quickly. So do we have Minister Florence on the phone with us?
Yes.
Okay, great. I will swear you in. Do you, Minister Florence, solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you, Minister. Next would be Clark Bono. We'll do that again. Clark Bono, do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Clark, are you with us? I think you're muted, Clark.
Clark, you're muted, just
The answer is yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
That's what they're talking about.
Okay, and we are ready for your application. We're ready for the presentation when you are.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Clark, did you want to start?
Sure. We had gone over quite a bit with who's been a great help, Chris Snyder, in trying to direct us into a material that would satisfy the board and the aesthetics of the building. And one of the areas or buildings that he directed us to was 2280 Lake Avenue. Similar building, it was publicly funded, but they used a Da Vinci, a simulated fiberglass slate, which certainly has the aesthetics of a real Vermont type slate. And that is what we proposed to use.
Also,
Okay.
Any questions?
Well, Minister, did you want to add something?
Yes. Also, at the first opportunity when we were not able to speak, we wanted at that time to share with the board the urgency of responding, because we're not just talking about to last July. We had gotten no involvement or support from the board about the condition of the roof and the things that we needed to do to get permits to address the leaking. We were able to get something temporary, but that was short term. And so we want to make sure in this hearing that it's understood that unless we want the building to collapse, the move to get the roof repaired is of an urgent matter. And also the funding sources through the sacred sites that we applied for that would help get something done before the winter starts now, because we started on this quest since January of this year, and we're still going into the fall with no response. So there's some urgency that the church feels that we don't feel that the board has with us in terms of how we need to address the roof, which is the life of the church.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks for the presentation. If you don't have anything further to give us, we will start asking questions, if that's okay. We'll start with I'll start with Kirsten Solberg. Any questions?
Sure. I guess my first question is for Mr. Bono. The first question I think that we always ask with the replacement of a historic slate roof is, what is the original condition, and have you done an assessment on the ability to restore the existing roof?
The existing roof is in a deteriorated condition, and not only is it a partial original roof, but there's been other repairs that have been made during the past years that have used different materials, some asphalt, some a simulated slate. So there's three types of roofs up there, and they're all in the state of deterioration, and they've outlived their useful life. What we did do earlier, in fact, a year ago, we went up and did some emergency repairs to the roof, if you will, patching, and to help stay the tide of water coming in until we could get financing for the restoration of the roof, and the restoration in something that the board here would recommend and accept.
So in your opinion, the majority of this roof is beyond repair?
That's correct.
Okay. And then my follow-up question is really what was discussed last time, that if we are to approve the Da Vinci slate, in my mind, this being a landmark church, the most significant face of this church is, I think it was the north of the south side, the north side with the, the patterned shingles, not shingles, slate. What I'm going to want to see is kind of the research done to see if that patterning can be replicated in a simulated slate, and whether the client, or whether this would be considered for this project.
To answer that question, Da Vinci does make similar shapes and similar colors that could be used to replicate the pattern. One of the problems that we're having is we're having problems getting any public assistance or any grant assistance. So all this is fine, and I know that it doesn't really concern the board. You're looking for aesthetics and originality in the replacement, but it's taken the cost of it, doing it that way, and probably put it close to $1 million, if not more money, since we've had 30% price increases on all this material since we put the bid together.
Maybe Tom Worth can explain that part of it, if you think it's appropriate, Tom, at this point.
Well, as we discussed with Minister Florence and is mentioned in the staff report, if finances are an issue, Clark Brown is correct that in this hearing, it's just aesthetics that's could be considered, and whether it's appropriate appearance wise and sustainability wise and all that. And if there's a financial issue, then if there's an approval or a denial if there's an approval that the church can't afford, the church could prepare another application that provides the financial information to show why they can't afford the option of using synthetic slate in patterns that matches the various parts of the roof, rather than just the rectangular synthetic slate shingles uniformly on the roof that the church is currently proposing.
Thank you, Tom. Kirsten, any further questions?
I don't think I have further questions.
Okay. Thank you. Gerald Gamm, any questions for the applicant?
Yes, the only question I have is for Minister Florence. You said that the application didn't originally come to the Preservation Board in July, it came in January. I just want to clarify the timetable, because I do understand the sense of urgency with winter coming. And my understanding is the board didn't get this case until July.
We started the process in January to get all of the paperwork in, working closely with Chris Snyder and the city staff. And certainly we appreciate the efficiency of trying to get it to the point of the July meeting. But as a result of our applying, we also had timelines to address within the board schedule, because that's what we were told that we had to get on your calendar 30 days before. And then after doing your process, we also were planning with Mr. Bono and other players to address the issues that would affect the roof, because certainly we wouldn't want Mr. Bono or anyone on slate roof when it's snowing. So the timeline was very important, and any delays, so to speak, would put us off another year. And so technically we've been working on this for 2 years, and now we're back into your schedule to try to get it addressed. So the urgency that we're speaking of is that if nothing is done, then we're increasing the cost of repair if we had $1 billion, but that's not what we want to see. And we think that we should work together, because we were here on the July meeting, but we couldn't speak because we didn't control our presence. And that penalized us, and that's no one's fault, but it fell back on the church, and then therefore now we're trying to make up. And it's difficult to do it if we can't join hands and have a true partnership on what is under your jurisdiction. But please remember that some of it was on your side. Apologies were accepted, but it didn't get us any closer to our goal. And that's important to the parishioners, that's important to the board, and that's important to me as pastor. And we've been here for 52 years, and we have not been on the radar of anyone from preservation. And we find that shocking and surprising. And now that we are here, there should be some urgency both ways.
Okay, Minister Florence, I really appreciate you explaining that. That actually helps a great deal. I have a question for the staff. Is there any way that I can share a photo that I took of the church roof to ask a question of Mr. Bono and Minister Florence? Can I share my screen, or is that not possible? Is that not allowed?
Tom, you're on mute.
It's allowed if it's physically possible to do it.
Anna, can you get him to share? Can we share his screen?
I just made it so you can share.
There we go.
Oh, great.
Okay, so this is, I assume you can all see this. This is a photograph that I took of the roof of the church. And I just want to call attention to the different elements of the roof, because my understanding from the application is
Can you
that,
say which side it is? Do you know, Gerald?
I knew you were going to ask that.
South,
I think this
south
is,
side.
It looks like the north.
Yeah, I think it's the north.
Really?
I think it's a smaller section of the church on the south side behind the main church. Because if we look, yes, this is the smaller section of the church at the rear. So this is on the south
Correct.
side of the church. Because we can see the main steeple here. And then this becomes the main roof with these dormers.
I believe that's the north side.
It is the north
Facing the
side.
expressway?
Yes, facing the expressway.
Yeah, that's the north side. Okay.
Okay, I'm disoriented. What I want to show on the roof is, my understanding is that these different colored hexagonal tiles, my understanding from the application is these are original, because it says multicolor, multi-shape and patent design slate, original 1816 roof. I think the intent is to say original 1871, 1872 roof. And so we're seeing here, and I just want this in the record, we're seeing here the original roof. We can see it all the way from the ridge down to the bottom of the roof with the original tile and the color. We can see here what I imagine is a slate replacement, or whether it's slate itself or it's a composite material that reproduces slate that was added at some point. And then we can see in the lower left, temporary repairs that were made with asphalt. My question for Mr. Mr. Bono, because I just want to be sure I heard you right. Does the synthetic slate exist to reproduce this 1871, 1872 design with the different colors and with these hexagonal tiles and with these rectangular tiles that are in the middle of the hexagonal? Are you saying that there is synthetic slate that does exist if cost were no object?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That was my question.
Okay. Any other questions, Gerald?
No, that was all. Thank you. Thank you both very much.
Okay. Thanks, Gerald. I am actually next. Just kind of wanted to clarify with the Da Vinci, my question is with the Da Vinci composite slate, if we were to approve that this evening, how would the pattern be, in your opinion? How would the pattern be?
The pattern could replicate the original. They do make shapes that are rectangular, and they also make some that are octagon. And I think they also may have a curved one. I thought that we did send in some shapes on in the application, but to
You
answer
did,
your
but it
question,
was-
they do have those.
Okay. You did, but it wasn't precise, I guess, is why I'm asking.
It may have not been precise. I thought there was different shapes that were drawn in that, in fact, they used over at 2080 Lake Avenue. It was a similar design. They had a similar shape that the church had, and they utilized that on that building.
I'm going by memory. I do remember the case on Lake Avenue, but it wasn't as intricate a design, I believe, as this church. And what they did on that church, I definitely do remember this. They put the Da Vinci composite slate on the back of that roof where you couldn't see it, and they moved all the other tiles, the real slate, to the front on Lake Avenue side. And it was a very deliberate design.
Can I cut in one
I
quick
would go
second?
along with
Minute.
So I guess, so the answer to your question is you could replicate this design with the Da Vinci?
Very similar.
Okay. Would you be willing to put together some kind of presentation for us to show us how it could look precisely?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you. I think those are all the questions that I had. Ed Kane, any questions for the applicant?
No, my questions have already been asked.
Thank you. Isaac Brocker, any questions for the applicant?
No, I think the questions are all thorough that are already been asked, so I don't have anything else.
All right, very good. If the Preservation Board members have no further questions, I'll put it over to Matthew.
Chris, I hate to interrupt. I actually have just, can I ask 2 follow-up questions?
Please.
One, Mr. Bona, I'm asking if this slate can be used on the flat roofs. And secondly, can it be used on the steeple as well?
Steeple is stone. wouldn't
Karsten, do
accept
you
it,
mean
and
the synthetic slate?
Yes, if that was the intention of this proposal. Because I see no other material proposed for the flat portions of the roof.
Spring Street.
If I can
The-
piggyback on
the,
Kirsten's
flat-
question, do we know what the current material is for the flat portions?
I think it's asphalt shingle.
Yes. Correct.
And what's the intention of the
applicant
for the flat roof areas? If we were,
Well, if the design for the flat roof areas they have shingles on it, and the slope of that roof is does not permit shingles to be used on it. And that's part of the problem. Somebody had put that up there years ago, and it was years ago it was a build-up roofing made of tar and tar paper with stone on it. In fact, it was a cold tar pitch type of roof.
So is the proposal to do a membrane to leave it as it exists?
We would put a slate colored membrane on a modified bituminous granulated membrane that would be slate in color, and that would harmonize with whatever colors that we're going to be using on the steep slope sections.
So a membrane to match the slate color.
Yes.
Okay, and then just my second question, and I should have asked this originally. What's the intention for the steeple?
I don't have any thing to do with the steeple.
So
The
it would
steeple
remain
is
as
stone.
is.
So I have not made any type of decision on the steeple.
Okay, just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Okay, not a problem at all. Ask as many questions as you'd like. Any other members have any other questions? Okay.
Chris,
Yes.
I wanted to be clear on language because language is important as we ask these questions. Are we using replication or are we using duplication? Because language is important. On all the roofs, you have that design except the rear roof that faces the parking lot to the complete rear of the church. And every other surface has that design somewhere on it. So when you ask your questions, are you asking Clark to duplicate it or are you asking him to replicate it? Because if you're asking,
My question was to duplicate it.
okay, but the way that the questions were being asked.
Let me repeat back. I mean, what Mr. Bono said is he could create a pattern with the synthetic shingles that would come very close to matching the patterns on the roof. So I don't know. That's where we are. I don't know if you call that duplication or replication, but it was that it would come very close. So,
and also kind of what I said was we'd really need to see something. At least I would really need to see something to okay it. I'd like to see a rendering, a drawing, something to let us know what it would really look like.
Christopher?
Yes, sir.
Christopher, I will put that together and get that delivered to Chris Snyder.
Okay, actually, I think it would be Matt Simonis.
Chris,
okay.
I wanted to finish my point. I was cut off by two people. I would respectfully appreciate the same courtesy that you all were given to complete your thoughts on what you're saying. What I was saying was, to me, if you're talking about replication and not duplication, Clark will provide for you, as he stated, what you need. But also in your decision, you know that there are issues on the roof. And we don't need a process that's going to draw us out another year. And if we're going to be fair to the church that has been very patient with this process and respected your process, you have to come closer to the church in partnership and relationship to address the issues of the roof. Diagrams are not going to address issues on the roof. And part of our coming was after we got through the technical questions that you could have gotten answered in July. We also want you to hear the urgency of your questions in partnershiping with the church to address them under your jurisdiction, to make permits available, and then to address what you're skirting. And that is, there was a process that was clearly delineated in terms of seeking funding now to the mayor's office and any other funding source to get it done. So we want to put it under your jurisdiction. Nothing that you can't handle, we don't want to talk about. But in the two meetings that I had with the city staff and with some of you who are on this Zoom, we discussed that specifically, and we were assured from board members from the church who were present with you that this would be discussed today, everything that was specifically under the jurisdiction of the board. And now what I'm hearing is not what was said in person. And I think both conversations need to be married, and it needs to be in the record, because you're talking off the record now. And that's unfair to the board and to the church. And it's unfair to me as the executive representative of that board to bring clarity to what you're going to decide, because we got to make some crucial decisions. You all are not in the building. The building won't fall in on you, but it will fall in on you if you come inside and don't do what's under your jurisdiction to address long-standing issues at a preservation building that you do have jurisdiction over.
Okay,
so-
can I may I
Well,
speak now?
Let me finish. You didn't put any timeline on anybody. Don't put it on me, please. I'm going to say what I have to say because I heard everyone else. This is important to the church. And it doesn't sound like it's important to this board because we should have been able before now to get some of this addressed. And it's unfair to the church to act like this system was fair to us. It was not. That's why you apologize. But don't just apologize and be disingenuous that this process was rigged against the church, whatever caused it. And that has to be corrected when you ask these questions. It's not like we're starting at the same point and we have time and we have a process that we all can work in and out of. That's not how we got to this point. And please do not talk to us as if we're on the same starting point. We're not. The church needs answers. You need to work with us and you need to show at 101 South Plymouth Avenue, where it's a predominantly Black church that wants to preserve its building. And it's a preservation building. It's on everybody's register. There should be no reason why we're not jumping together to make this happen. But now if you're waiting for catastrophe to come and blame the church, I'm telling you for the record that won't happen because you all have just as much a stake in preserving buildings because that's why you're a board, not the church. And we want to join hands with you. But remember, we didn't come to this clean. And let's don't talk like it's clean. It was muddy, it was dirty, it was not prepared in a way that the church was welcome to this process as partners. And we have a very expensive building that needs to be preserved.
Okay, can I talk now? Thank you.
Sure, if you want to.
Thank you. We are very sympathetic to your needs. We are extremely sympathetic to your needs, and we always work with people within the city. I'm speaking. I'm going to let Tom Worth talk about the process that we do. We're here to do a specific process. We're not playing games with anyone. We're just doing what we're supposed to do, and we're doing it by a process. Tom Worth, could you help us with that, please?
As we discussed, Minister Florence in our meeting in person, and is mentioned in the staff report, I've already described what the issue would be if there was a financial hardship. What we also discussed is doing our very best, consistent with the rules we have, to get to something that could be approved that's satisfactory to the church. And that's what what the board's been doing and working out with Mr. Bono right now. We also discussed that if there are leaks that are problematic, that if they can be addressed before we get to a final decision on your application by an emergency application to just the staff. It wouldn't have to go to the board, just explaining whatever measures are to address certain spots in the roof that are currently leaking. So that's basically the process here. But I mean, we're all trying to figure out how to do our best to get you as speedy a decision as we can.
So for an emergency measure, you can work with staff to somehow stop the building from leaking. So that's how we're working with it. The rest of the process we have to do by the book. And that would be, we have to see renderings of what you intend to do, and we're more than willing to help and work. So I think that sounds to me like it could possibly work. Work with staff to put some emergency measures in place to get the roof sealed up for winter. And then we'll do our process to get to the end of it.
What are your timelines, Chris?
The timelines are that you really need to talk to staff like tomorrow and talk to them about what it takes to seal the roof up and stop the leaking. they can work with you on that. That has nothing to do with us as a board right now. They can work with you to do that part. So I would
No.
strongly recommend doing that. Now, I can't speak for the rest of the board right now, but what I would do personally is ask for renderings and some idea of what the roof would look like with specifics. That would include the whole roof, the steeple, the flat roof, the materials that you'd like to use, and so on. And we're more than happy to work with you on that. And I understand that the timeline is difficult. I completely understand that, and I'm completely sympathetic to it. But if your concern is getting the roof under control and not leaking, there's a great solution. Staff can work with you on that and get it done quickly.
No, I'm agreeing with you. I'm agreeing, but
all right, and I appreciate that.
You didn't hear my question. I said, what was your timeline? Because now you don't meet every week.
No, we meet once a month, and staff can give you the specific timeline. We meet once a month, and you have to have your application in 30 days prior to the meeting.
Right.
But I think that if your main objective is to stop the leaking, you can take care of that with staff, and they'll work with you on that.
Okay, I'll say it again. I don't have a problem with that process, but I'm talking about your process with the drawings. That means that we're going to have at least.
Maybe Matt can jump in and help us, because
I can
again,
answer
with all due respect, Minister, there are 5 other cases of people that have been waiting as well, and I want to be fair with everyone, including you. So if we could please just keep it as succinct as possible, that would be appreciated. Matt, can you please tell us how it works?
You're being abusive.
I am not being abusive.
Well, why did you cut me off? You cut no one else off. No one. And that's disrespectful. All of the board was respected no matter how long or how short they spoke. We were put off for 60 days, Chris. It's not like you're doing me a favor.
Minister,
you're not doing my church a favor. Well, let me finish. I've got board members sitting in this room waiting to hear something that makes sense here. And I'm representing their point of view because they're not in this Zoom to speak because there's limited time. But you need to spell out your timeline as a board.
I'm trying to ask Matthew to do that. Matt, please tell us what the timeline.
Oh, Matt, let me if we were to announce that this meeting was going to be carried over to the next monthly meeting, and then if Clark could get his drawings in like in about 2 weeks, would that work, Matt?
Correct, and we don't have to. We don't
get it. There wouldn't be any problem. We'd have the proper notice already by saying it at this meeting that we could go to get approval at next month's meeting. Yeah, I think I got that right. Yeah.
That is correct. In answer to the timeline for questions, if the project contractor, Mr. Bono, who's on the call here, is able to get revised renderings to me in the next 2 weeks, we do not have to resend out postcards. We can say that this meeting will be scheduled for the November 3rd. I'm sorry, I misspoke.
Yeah, I got November 3rd.
November 3rd? Okay, the November 3rd, let me just verify that. Yeah, November the 3rd Preservation Board hearing, we would not have to send out new postcards. So in answer to the question about timelines, if the contractor can agree to getting some drawings over in the next 2 weeks, we can do that.
So today what the board can decide is the basic outlines of what they want depicted, and then they'll do a resolution approving that, and then Clark will have kind of his outline of what we need to have presented.
Chris, I don't know if we're going to go through typical, if we're still going to go through typical, but I'm happy to speak on what I think we need to see. Or do you want to continue going through each member?
No, we can go back to that, please. Go with your thought.
So I don't think we need a rendering per se, but what's really unclear to me is I'm looking at some of these diagram views that we see in the application. We need a plan that shows us from the top what the patterning is on each plane of the roof. There's portions that are currently patterned, and there are portions that are currently rectilinear. We have to understand which faces are going to receive which treatment. It would be great if it could be colored so we understand, how we're replicating this, and which portions are flat and receiving a membrane.
Kirsten, it's Gerald. Could I just jump in for a moment? Because I agree with every word you've said, but I'm getting confused about the structure of how we're hearing this case at this point. Because I thought we were still at the portion of the hearing where we're asking questions of the applicant. And I'm wondering, have we exited that portion and are we now deliberating?
No, we're not deliberating. We're not deliberating yet.
Yeah,
We
I'm
were
sorry,
just-
we got ahead of ourselves, but
We're just
I
finishing
think
questions.
they
We're
want
still
to
asking
bring up
questions.
this, I think they want to bring up during question periods what the members are considering before they go into deliberations, so that if Clark or Minister Florence have some answers or other things, they can have their input before the hearing is closed and we go to deliberations.
That's correct. We're still in questions.
Kirsten, I apologize. Why don't you continue what you were saying? Because actually I agree with the thrust of what you were saying.
Kirsten, you're on mute. Did you have anything further you wanted to add to that?
No, if I want to turn it into a question, it's just, can that be provided to us? We just need a very clear diagram of what is being proposed on the roof.
Right. So
I have
that,
a
we were
question.
actually, yes. Who is that? I'm sorry.
My question is, if you want a diagram on the roof, do you want us to follow the original 1851 pattern? Do you want us to follow the pattern that was established in 1920? Or do you want us to follow a pattern that was established in 1950?
So my opinion, and I can hear what the other board members have to say, is, again, this is ultimately your application. I personally would like to see probably the two primary naves with that patterning and the perpendicular naves with the rectilinear patterning. I'm happy to look at a different solution, but I think that the spirit of that original patterning needs to be present somewhere on this roof. And I know that some of the existing faces, it's just the south faces, that may not be correct, that exist. I'm happy to say, let's just do the north and the south of one nave to keep it consistent. So kind of what makes sense to preserve, as it was said in the application, the spirit of this roof, without necessarily replicating its existing condition right now.
Well,
go ahead.
I guess so this feels a lot like deliberation to me. If we're posing this as a question.
It's not deliberation. We're having a discussion with the application.
Let's get to the point, and it requires that we still get input from the applicant. There's give and take. So that's why we need to leave it open.
Well, what the applicant has asked, do we want to replicate the 1872 roof or the 1910 roof or the 1950 roof? And Kirsten is offering her view, and I have a different view of what I would ask the applicant. So I'm just,
go ahead.
I honestly don't know the most constructive way to engage.
Yeah, then when Kirsten's done, then you can give your view.
Go for it.
Gerald, go ahead.
So what I would like to see from the applicant is a best effort to replicate the design of the original 1872 roof. And we have huge surviving chunks of this roof. We can see the different colors. We can see the different shapes of the slate. I would like to see not the hodgepodge that's there today, but as we're being reminded over and over, this is a city landmark. This is an incredibly important building. I would like to at least see what it would look like to replicate the original design. And if we have photographs from 100 years ago, or if we can look at the roof today and get a sense of the original design, the mix of colors, the mix of shapes, what that would have looked like when the church went up.
Under the roof.
And I don't know if I'm right, but that's what I would like to say.
You tear it off.
Okay.
And
Any other board members have any other thoughts, any questions, any other interaction with the applicant before we do go back to staff to see if they have any public testimony?
one, Chris,
Yes, sir.
I'm wondering, based on the 2 points of view, I'm wondering which one are we going to be able to definitively do? Because there were 2 renderings that were proposed and they're not the same. And I don't want to see Clark investing time in everything. I think we should be precise and we should not be perfidious about this. So let's try to be direct on which one are you asking him to do, because it's cost entailed in everything. And so everybody's time is important, but now we're talking cost that's not under your jurisdiction, but you're passing that on to the church if you can't be a little more decisive.
Well, ultimately, like Kirsten said, this is your application. And what we're looking for are something that goes kind of along with, well, not kind of, but goes along with our guidelines. And our guidelines are that it should be as close to the original as possible. That's usually what we look for. Now, we're going to go, we would go into deliberations after we're done talking with the applicants. And that's usually when we talk about that and kind of come up with an idea for that. But it would be my assumption to, I can't answer that until we get into the deliberations, that it would be as close to the original as possible.
Okay, so we have several years though that you're asking for originality. And then I'm just going to say this for the record, because this meeting is being recorded. Yes. We have some members that weighed in July without our participation. That's going to affect deliberation. And also for equity and inclusion, for the record, the board is not representative of the community it serves. So when you talk about fair deliberation on the applicant's concern, there also should be fair representation so that the people who weighed in on July 7th, we didn't deliberate with them, but their conversation, if notes were taken for the record, will come into the conversation. And they didn't deliberate with us while we're here. And then secondly, we're dealing with a new group, and we know that there's a transition in leadership, but you're not going by the book because we're not dealing with the same membership as it was configured the prior notice of July 7th. So that's why I'm saying again, and I'm trying to be very tactful, but very tacit on the point that I'm making here, that this is not a clean and seamless process. There are as much disruption for our dialogue as it is not going to be for your deliberation. So you have to be a little more sensitive and not as crass as you've been in this deliberation, because you've been very unfair to us as applicants, because you were supposed to be listeners, not debate with us, because we were deliberating. And there were some things that we wanted for clarity, and you started deliberating and not listening. And that doesn't mean a relationship and a partnership to me, because we had to listen to you while all of you deliberated in front of us to a point. And that's framing the way you're going to look at our application. But then you're not going to give us fair discourse, and then you're going to tell us about other applicants, and you might not have time to give us. Then why invite us to the meeting if you didn't schedule us in a way that we can make up for what was not our privilege the last time we were here? Because we deserve our time, not shrunk, not rushed. It should be exactly the way, if you're going to go by the book, it ought to be exactly done like our white counterparts. They get their time, they get their decisions, and they are satisfied with how this process works. We want to be satisfied, but we're not white.
We want you to be satisfied.
We're not white, we're Black. We're Black applicants. And I think that that is a concern that I have with you telling me the regulations. I'm reading what you sent me, but I'm here to let you know and to let your board know that you have Black applicants. That's what you have. And your process has not served the Black community equally as strong as the white community as it relates to preservation buildings. And for the record, we've been here for 52 years. And it's been a Black church that's in this church. And we have gotten no consideration under your jurisdiction for any survival plans. And all of it does not have to be submitted plans. And you all know that. And you know, one of the problems, for the record, is it intentional that we're not represented as a people on this board to feel that the deliberation for a Black church is going to be equally as included as it is for our white counterparts? And they come with a confidence and the privilege that Black applicants don't have under your rules. And you all need to be sensitive to that. And the way you were trying to talk down to Black people was not the way you were talking to the white applicants. None of you were talking to white applicants like you were in a hurry. You let them explain.
Tom Worth, if you could help us here, please. That's really not true. And
look at the recording, Chris.
Minister, we're just trying to get to a decision, okay?
Well, but come on, man, come on. You all did not take the tone that you had with your colleagues that are white. It was very efficient. It was very polite, and no rules had to be explained. No process had to be reiterated. And they had some not difficult questions to answer. Come on now, you all are in 2021.
Yeah, Minister, that was a different application and much simpler.
Institutional and structural and individual and systemic racism is in every institution, including this board. Nobody's exempt from that. And you can't sit here and make me believe that you're going to go by the book if you're not going to recognize the obvious. We're a Black church, and that has to be under consideration. And if it's not, you're being more insensitive than I thought you were.
Minister,
because you haven't worked with us before. You have not worked with us before, not even informally. You haven't even come to introduce yourselves to us until we got inside this process. And that's a shame before God. It's a shame before God. And you're not going to dehumanize the board at this church, myself, and the people that worship here, and the community we've been serving for 52 years. There's no other church on your register that you've treated and mishandled like the Central Church of Christ. And I believe it's because we're Black. That's what I believe.
Minister, you're entitled to your opinion, but
it's not an
trying
opinion.
to get to a decision so that you can
give me some evidence that I'm talking opinion. Give me some evidence. You're a lawyer. You don't come to court without evidence.
This whole process is providing you evidence. Please just let us get to a decision so that we can move things as fast as possible to get you to a new roof.
Okay,
that's what we're trying to do.
Well,
I
didn't hear.
Debate with you about all of.
Well, I didn't hear. I'm being honest.
Do our best to do what.
Sometimes your best with equity and inclusion and diversity ain't enough.
Well, we believe we're doing our best.
Well, that's from a perspective only you're carrying, because we're the applicant.
The thing to decide here is on your application, not on whether there's institutional racism in.
It can't be.
So we're trying to get there.
It can't be dismissed. It cannot be dismissed in this process. And your president, you didn't correct him as a lawyer. You're supposed to be an arbitrator. And no one comes to this process to be talked down to or disrespected. I'm a pastor, and I didn't disrespect anybody. I sat here and listened as intently as everyone else. I was
Minister,
the only one that was
Minister,
cut off.
Minister, if
I
I could
think
say
you are
something,
kind of
no one,
disrespecting us because we listened to you and have heard you out and you're acting like we didn't listen to you before. But we have to do what we can do. We can't like go back and appoint new board members or we're trying to get to a decision and we're doing it within the rules, no matter what you think. And please let us get to that because you are disrespecting also all the other applicants that are waiting in line to get a decision.
I didn't plan, in all due respect, I did not plan this time. This is the time that we were given, and this was the slot we agreed to come to. And I think that, again, is disrespect because you had the choice, because you fluffed July. I did not. And if you knew, and I asked, and you all were saying that you didn't have within your rules to meet before this date. And I said, there always should be some exception because of what had happened. And you all just said, no, the rules said 30 days. Well, you have to live by your rules. They're not serviceable. They're not serviceable because they're not even working for you. If you'd have met the next 2 weeks that we requested so that we could get some of this stuff out the way.
We told you why we could not do that because that wasn't noticed in the prior meeting, okay? You just gotta, I am confident that we are following the rules to the best of our ability to get your thing done as fast as possible. You have told us you disagree. Would you please let us get to your application so that we could just do it?
Well, go ahead. But I want to say for the record, this is new.
It's in the record. It's it's a public meeting. This is available on livecast.
Well, you know, racism is terrible. And sometimes, you know, our fragility toward it is a mess because the privileges that are extended to white applicants in this process, I don't care what the rules say, they get what they want. And their buildings are not looking like ours. Now you tell me what it is. And you can get to whatever you got to get to. But I want you to get to my building to look like the white church.
Trying to get to your building.
All right, make my church look like the one on East Avenue, where the white rich people live and they get what they want. They're opulent. They don't need grants and any kind of assistance, but you give it to them. Now you have a black church that's applying. Now you're going to tell me about the rules. Just make my building look like it's supposed to. Let's go.
All right, thank you.
okay, any other questions for the applicants, board members? Okay. We'll throw it over to staff. Matthew, are there any, is any public testimony to be, no?
There is not, no.
Okay, thank you very much. Then we will close the public portion.
Oh, wait.
And we will do it.
Before we do, can I ask Mr. Bino one more question?
Sure.
The main roofs on the naves with the diamond patterns, I think we can guess that those are original, correct?
Yes.
Is there a question about
Yes.
some of the other roofs, what was original? Because there's been the question asked that we want, like, what was as close to original as possible? What, do we even know on the other roofs what was original?
I would say this, we have the original slate pattern, which Karsten described, and the other areas have been added over, or the original was removed and new roofing material was added. So to go back to the original, we have to look at precisely what it is. And there's patterns of it. And that's what I'm going to try to put together for you with a Da Vinci simulation of those patterns and those colors as close as what's possible. I don't produce this material, so I have to deal with what they have. But they do have tiles that do represent closely what we have up there. I'll try to do it in the next 2 weeks. or
Thank
before.
you. Sorry about the late question.
Any more questions?
No problem.
Okay. Do you want to put up a deliberations page, Matthew, or we're all set? We could just go into
No,
deliberations?
Correct, I don't have that.
Yeah, so
Okay.
just for the public so that they know we're going into deliberations now. The public hearing's been closed. In deliberations, it's just the members of the board discussing and trying to reach a decision without the participation of the applicants or the public. Go ahead.
Thank you. We'll start with Kirsten. Kirsten, your thoughts, please.
I think I've already said a lot of it. I'm going back to what we said back in July. We're still looking for a diagram that shows what the intention is. I know their intention was to do rectilinear throughout. Back in July, we had asked that the patterning of the original roof be replicated. It sounds like what we're going to debate is where does that replication of the pattern happen? My 10 cents or 2 cents, unless we have something that tells us that every single face of this roof was at some point patterned, it looks like right now the existing condition is that the south of the north side of both naves retains its patterning. It looks like the smaller nave has a patterning on both sides. In a perfect world, I'd probably say repeat those patterns, mirror it across the ridgeline of the roofs, across those two naves that run east-west. And because unless we have evidence that the nave that runs north-south had that patterning, I'd be okay with a rectilinear pattern in the simulation slate. But again, I want to see the coloration because I don't think it should necessarily receive the multicolored that was proposed. That's what I got.
All right. We appreciate that. Thank you. Gerald, your thoughts, please.
So my thoughts are similar to Kirsten's, but I actually, as I said earlier, I think that we should ask the applicant to reconstruct as best as possible what the roof looked like in 1872 with color and with patterning. And I think there's enough surviving slate that we have a very, very good idea of what it looks like. So I think of the main roof as having, I guess there's a north side and a south side to the main roof. I'm disoriented, as we all know. One side still shows all the patterning and all the color. The other side is simple rectangles. Unless the applicant can produce new information, I assume that the side that's showing all the patterning and all the color is original, and that the rectangles were new, and that the two sides once looked exactly the same. So I would ask the applicant to reconstruct as best as he's able what the 1872 roof looked like, and to give us a proposal for how to reconstruct a reproduction of the 1872 roof using synthetic slate, showing different sizes, showing different shapes and different colors. So to reconstruct as best as possible what the roof looked like in 1872, using the remnants of the 1872 roof that are still all over the place, and show us the colors and the shapes that they would use to reproduce that roof. I understand there may also be a cost issue here, but that's not the responsibility of the board. The responsibility of the board is to the city landmark and to the church that has lovingly maintained this building, and to figure out how can we continue to maintain this building for another century.
Gerald, if I might just say, the church was built in 1816.
18. So they refer
1816.
So it's not an 1816 church. The 1816 date appears a couple of times. This church is clearly not 1816, and the profile that we have as part of the application refers to it as designed by Andrew Jackson Warner in 1872. And just architecturally, it could be 1870, it could be 1880.
I had 1816 for what it's worth. But what you're saying is,
that the congregation that was originally in the present church was there in 1816 in a different structure.
So that's certainly possible. We're talking about this structure, this landmark. And on page 49, I think 49.
We're all talking about the same pattern though.
Right.
Why
So
don't
what
we,
you're saying,
whatever the year is, why don't we not
Okay.
bother with the year?
Okay, we're all talking
so you're
about
saying,
that. I'm referring to the church profile on page 49 of our application. It doesn't matter the year.
but what you're saying is, what you're saying is original.
Whatever was original, that they do their best to reconstruct for the entirety of the roofs what it looked like when it was originally constructed.
But
In
with
color
synthetic tiles or with slate?
With the synthetics, with synthetic slate.
Yeah.
Of different colors and different shapes. And that if there is a hardship application, that would take place after the next board hearing, and that is not our responsibility.
Okay. Thank you. My question, Tom, is how can we help the church more? Would we hold this application? Would it be easier and more efficient for them that way to hold it, or to simply vote on this the way it sits? Which would be the most beneficial for the church?
The way to do it, the best accommodate the applicant is to make a decision about what you want the applicant to present in terms of how they would try to replicate elements of the original roof with synthetic tiles. Address the issues that Karsten did, whether addressing the flat roof, what you want on the naves, what you want on the smaller naves, whether or not you want rectangular on the remaining roofs, and make that decision and direct the applicant to come back at the next meeting with drawings of how.
So that would be a hold officially, right? Technically, that's a hold.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hold, but there's a decision that needs to be made, like a resolution that needs to be passed, giving a direct. So yes, it's a decision and a hold.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Tom Worth, I'm sorry to cut you off, Chris. I just have a quick question for Tom Worth. Tom, going back to the actual hearing, it was announced that it's going to be heard at the November hearing. Is it fair to call this an adjournment based on the criteria that the board is going to come to a consensus on?
Our normal parlance is to call it a hold to the next meeting, but this is just hypothetical. Assume, if the board elects to do this, that it would include noticing the very next month's meeting, and what they would want is a depiction from the applicant.
Okay.
Understood. Thank you.
So my thoughts are the same as Gerald's. I think it should be as original as possible. I'm fine with the synthetic. And as far as what I would expect exactly what Kirsten said. The drawings or diagrams or a plan of the roof. Ed Kane, your thoughts, please.
My thoughts are that I agree with what you said and what Kirsten said, and that's it.
Okay, thank you. And Isaac?
Yeah, I agree as well with the majority of what was said. I definitely think the main nave and the secondary nave that are east-west in the east-west direction should replicate the original pattern. I mean, I could be convinced either way on the secondary roof that's running north-south in the back. But I do think we need to see drawings of like what the actual pattern is being proposed and the specific colors.
I think we need to see samples as well.
Samples as well. Okay.
When you say samples as well, can you be more detailed?
Well, in a perfect world, I'd be sitting in a room and I could look
at them.
No,
that's why I ask.
Seeing that that's not going to happen, it's photographs, it's the product literature that we could see the best coloration as possible. And it's keyed into what they're proposing.
It was in the staff report, the rectangular Da Vinci's, a picture of it.
That was with the proposal that it was everywhere.
Right.
So
yeah, so I'm not saying that that's what we would ask is something like that the shingles, if we can't see it in person, that there'd be a photograph up close of the different kinds of shapes of shingles. Yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, this gets back to the conversation we had in the pre-meeting where it would be so much more helpful for us to see this in person. So
Yeah, Gerald, let's get on it. Stop beating a dead horse and let's get to, processing
Okay.
this application.
Can I get a motion, please? Gerald, why don't you give me a motion on
I
this?
would happily give a motion. So this regards case number 1, to remove and replace an existing slate and asphalt roof with new materials of a different design. It's file number A-001-22-22. It's the Central Church of Christ at 101 South Plymouth Avenue. I make the motion that we hold this application, that we invite the applicant back to our next meeting on November 3rd and ask the applicant to provide detailed drawings that reconstruct as best as possible the design of the original roofs of the church, showing colors and patterns, and showing also the exact synthetic slate materials that are proposed as part of the effort to reconstruct the original design of the roof.
And I just want to add that you call out the membrane portions as well.
Yes, and give us information about the membrane portions, and yes, and give information about the flat portions of the roof and what materials would be used.
Anyone going to second that?
A second.
Thank you. A motion has been made by Gerald Gamm and properly seconded by Edward Kane. I'll call every member out and ask them if they vote yay or nay for the motion. We'll start with Kirsten Silver. Do you vote yay or nay for the motion, Kirsten?
Yay.
Kirsten Silver is yay. Gerald Gamm.
Yay.
Gerald Gamm votes yay for the motion. I'm next. Christopher Coretta. I vote yay for the motion. Ed Kane.
Yay.
Ed Kane votes yay for the motion. And Isaac Brocker.
Yay.
Isaac Brocker votes yay for the motion. That's a unanimous 5 vote. Thank you very much for the presentation. We're going to close this case, and when Matthew is ready, please call the next case.
Great, thank you. Case number 3 is file A-009-2021. It is a certificate of appropriateness located at 50 Hawthorne Street. The applicants are Dr. David Kaufman, who's the property owner, as well as Neil Barman, who is the project designer. The zoning district is R1 Low Density Residential District, and it's located in the East Avenue Preservation District. And the purpose is to install brick and stone piers and hedge plantings at the front yard lot line, and to replace a stone patio with flagstone brick and a wisteria arbor in the rear yard of this single family home.
Thank you, sir. Do we have Mr. David Kaufman here and Neil Barman?
David Kaufman
both?
and Neil Barman.
Great.
Neil
I just need to swear you in.
Oh, sure.
Okay. Dr. David Kaufman, do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. And Neil Barman, do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Great. Thank you very much. And we are ready for your presentation.
Okay, Neil's going to make the presentation, the landscape architect. Just so you know, he does have a hearing disability, and so I might have to repeat some things that you say to me because of the Zoom.
And then, not to make things awkward, I might look at David and go, David, could you restate something? So it's kind of really hard to read lips with the whole Zoom thing. Things are delayed, so try to be patient.
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you. Just take it from the top. Okay, so we're starting with the brick pillar aspect, correct? Being very selective with 50 Hawthorne Street is a beautiful estate where we have a 1920s home where the original design has a combination of red brick, stucco, and wood detail elements. And along the front public sidewalk, there's a burning bush hedge. And they get so many compliments on us. We maintain it for them. It's a beautiful, beautiful property. But one of the downsides of having the burning bush hedge in the front, it contributes to fall color, which is quite beautiful. But when the passersby walk by, in the fall and everything, when that's done, the leaves drop, and there's nothing really there for people to kind of enjoy when they walk past the house. And so one of the ideas that we had was, incorporating these 6 brick pillars that would kind of go across that the rhythm on either side of the front walkway and on the other side of the driveway along the front. It would almost historically seem as though like there was at one point like a wrought iron fence that was in between those pillars at one point. And I would replace the burning bush hedge with boxwood. So that way it would have year-round texture and interest. And when we were selecting the brick, we did an exact match. I worked alongside with Rochester brick. They helped me find the exact color red, the exact color brown, and we could really pick apart this palette. And so we're going to have the exact brick. We're going to use a Chateau limestone rock face, which is going to be an exact match to the walkway colors. The picture that you have on the screen now, they have since replaced the slip hazardous slate walkway on there, and they now have a Chateau limestone front walk, but we're using that for the caps. And also a detail, the pattern in each individual pillar. If you look closely at the house, there is vertical soldier course where the masons put the brick in a vertical format along the base of all the windowsills and above the doorways and things like that. And I incorporated that in with the proposed brick pillars as well. And if you can see in the pictures, the Kaufmans do a beautiful job with the maintaining the annuals and everything in the front for passersby, making sure the house looks really buttoned up and pretty all during the growing season. These brick pillars were really an effort for us to make sure that this property really looks beautiful during the winter months as well, because we have these long winters here in Rochester. So that was going to be the proposal for the front for those 6 pillars.
Do you want to talk about the front separate from the back, I assume, in 2 pieces? Whatever's best for you. Or do you want us to present the whole thing and then talk about the 2 separate projects?
You can talk about it all at once. It's fine. Okay.
So do you want to go to the second project then?
So we'll go on to the next project. Okay. And then for the backyard, they already have this sort of, currently they have a broken flagstone sitting area in the backyard. As you can see it right there. Yes, exactly. And we wanted to make this more user-friendly for them. It's so easier to maintain. So we wanted to make it more of an intentional sitting area. So we were going to, and the grass isn't really thriving right there anyhow. So we were going to simply just use the same exact material that we have there, which is a full color PA stand-up flagstone. And we're going to take that exact same color blend and use larger pieces of flagstone and then have the pieces very close together. It'd be a precision hand-honed, doing the stonework in that literal shape. And then taking the existing brick and using what's there and using that as a soldier course around the outside edge of that flagstone. So that way it's really integrated. And so that way the colors look like it as though it all happened at the same time. So we're really just buttoning up and formalizing what already exists with that flagstone. And the structural element I'm proposing, David and Carolyn, they're great doctors in the area. They come home, they want to be able to enjoy some time in their backyard. I was proposing to have a nice little, like a wisteria arbor, if you will, a wisteria trellis, and basically using that space and not, pushing anything out or changing the driveway blueprint or anything like that. Just literally having a place for shade and intimacy, and having a place for the wisteria to grow and travel and bloom. So, and that's that's looking down on that. The water feature is already there. It's been there for years. It's beautiful, and literally everything would just be putting the structure in there. And if you have any questions, let me know.
Okay, great. Very nice application, by the way. Thank you. Very thorough.
Oh, thank you.
We'll start with Isaac Brocker and ask any questions of the applicant. Isaac, do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions on the front portion. I guess my only question would be on the rear and the wisteria arbor. How is the design of that arbor relating to the design of the 1920s house? Because it seems like there's a little bit removed from the style of the house?
I think once the architecture, so this was that picture that you have there, the more of the inspiration. The style of the house, I think that when you have the wisteria is actually growing onto the arbor, it's going to be more, the vines are pretty much, it's going to be over designed in the aspect we're using 6x6 posts. It's going to be using, it's going to be consumed by the wisteria. So I think that it'll be more, because it is a vine, it will basically consume the wood structure, and it will be more about having an organic space. And I actually disagree a little bit. I think that it does speak to privacy hedges. And I do think it speaks to trellises and things like that that are very popular in the Park Avenue area and the East Avenue area. I do think that it will fit, it will kind of marry that space actually quite perfectly. And I do think that it will look, that the trellis and the privet hedge and the privacy hedge aspect of it, I think it fits with the area.
Okay, no further, I don't have any further questions.
Okay, thanks, Isaac. Ed Kane, any questions for the applicants?
I thought it was a well thought out, thorough presentation. I have no questions.
Thank you. I'm next. I have no questions. Gerald Gamm, any questions?
So I have a couple of questions. I have no questions about the rear of the project. My questions are about the front. Is there a way to pull up, there are very large drawings that show the proposed front of the house with the piers and the main, yes, there. So my first question, you have the sidewalk, and then at a perpendicular to it, you have the walkway that goes from the sidewalk to the main entrance of the house. Currently, there's a hedge along that walkway that goes from the sidewalk to the house. And I can't tell from your proposal whether or not the hedge is being kept. In some places, it says existing hedge and doesn't say it's being removed, but then in this image, it's obviously not there.
You're talking about, we're not doing anything, the hedge that goes this way. You're talking about that.
Oh,
Yeah.
correct. Yeah. So you're talking about the existing hedge,
The hedge that follows the walkway from the sidewalk.
So there's a large burning bush hedge in there now, which exceeds, it's about 4 or 5 feet, and we kind of keep it down. What I'm proposing is the pillars they're 36-inch heights, keeping things low. And then once we have the height up in there, those burning bush hedges along their walkway to the front of the house, those will be removed. And it's a matter of this, if we continue at that time, we will decide if we will have boxwood on either side of the front walkway to the house, or if that will be a bit too much. I think we'll have to kind of see, we'll have to assess that once we have the brick pillars in place, the boxwood hedge along the front, and then decide whether or not we need anything along that front walk to the front door. I doubt that we will.
Okay, so just to make sure I understand, the proposal is to remove not only the hedge along the sidewalk, but also remove the hedge that goes from the sidewalk to the main entrance.
Correct.
Okay. My second question is about the piers. I find them architecturally confusing because it seems to me there are two ways to treat the edge along the sidewalk that are appropriate for this neighborhood. One is a hedge, whether it's a boxwood hedge or a privet hedge or a burning bush hedge. Another is, as you point out, to have piers with wrought iron between the piers. And you can just walk across Hawthorne Street and you can see stone piers with wrought iron directly across the street. You can see it further down behind the Frank Lloyd Wright House. So those are two classic ways of treating the edge of the house along the sidewalk, either a hedge or piers with wrought iron. And the piers with wrought iron are tall. They're probably, I don't know, 6-7 feet tall. So is there any example of using these very short piers with hedge, with more short piers that you're aware of in this neighborhood?
Like examples of using.
He wants to know. I'm sorry, I'm just going to repeat what you said.
Got it.
So he's talking about the fact that elsewhere on Hawthorne and in the area, there are, and Gerald, please correct me if I say something incorrect. He's talking about the fact that our piers are shorter than what you see along the neighborhood, and that they, as you said earlier, they usually have wrought iron connecting them. They don't have sort of this look where there's boxwood and then the piers separate. And so he wants to know, are there other examples that you know in the area where we're replicating something that already exists or recreating something that's new in the fact that we have shorter piers with no wrought iron going across? Is that fair to your question, Gerald?
Yeah, David, that is fair, that the piers, that is fair.
Right. I think that it's the proportions seemed appropriate. It wasn't about replicating. And I think it's a translation, it's not a replication. I think it's a translation for you're seeing some of the other taller pillars and think if that was appropriate for the front of this house or not. It's just think of what was actually appropriate for scale. There's plenty of examples of using brick and then keeping it. And I think introducing metal, introducing the wrought iron was an unnecessary element. There's enough materials going on, I think, with the house, between the stucco, the wood, the brick, and the other elements on the house. I didn't think there was a need to bring in another element. So I think it is a translation more than a literal replication.
Okay, so I have one last question, and Matt, can we look at what I think is the next page? Okay, what I want is the previous.
And just for the record, we were just on page 27 of the staff report. Now we're on page 28.
Okay, so I want page.
I'm just going back and forth with pages.
Oh, yes, that one. Thank you. So in the deliberation stage, I think it'll be reasonable for us to talk about the piers and the height of the piers. The one other question, David, that I have for you and the landscape architect has to do with the number of piers. So as I look at the property, the way I can think about the piers is you have a pier on either side of the driveway. You have a pier on either side of the walkway. Those both make sense, sort of entering the walkway, entering the driveway, and then all the way to the left at the property line. Is there any necessary reason for that sixth pier? Because
the one that's in the middle.
The one in the middle?
Yeah, the one in the middle of the head.
Yeah, you're talking about the one in the middle, right, Gerald?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The original, it's funny that you mentioned that one. A little bit of creative freedom with this. So the original drawing did not have the third pillar in the middle of those two. Based on the rhythm of the space and looking at my original drawing and actually Rochester brick, when it came over, we were pouring over samples and trying to match the house brick perfectly. It was really interesting how my associate was kind of looking at things and saying, why aren't you putting another one over here? It would really complete the story of how it would really help complete that look. And I was like, really? I was like, I didn't really think that it was necessary having one there. And he said, no, definitely. And then I said, well, I'll see what happens. And we drew it in. And I really thought quite visually, it actually worked out very nice when you're walking with him. The spaces even between, I said, well, you know what? I said, I'll measure it out. And if it works out to be perfect, then it's a sign and we'll go ahead and we'll move from it. So the lawn on the right side of the walkway between those two pillars is equidistant to the three on the left. And that was good enough for me. And I thought that made sense.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I have no other questions.
Thanks, Gerald. Kirsten Solberg, any questions for the applicant, please?
I do not have any questions. Thank you. It was very straightforward and thorough.
Okay, thank you. If board members have no further questions, we'll go back to Matt and see if there's any public testimonies or statements that needed to be read into the record.
No, there are not for this case. And Anna, can you please confirm there's no one to speak at this case either? No, no one signed up for this one. Okay, thank you. No, that is everything.
Okay, thank you. Tom, did you want to talk about the deliberation phase? Or would you like me to?
So just for the public record, so Chris has closed the public hearing and now we're going into deliberations, which means just the members will discuss amongst themselves what decision to make, but there won't be participation by the applicant or the public.
Okay.
Except for
thank you.
If they wish to.
Great, thank you. Isaac, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts on this case?
I think this is a great project. I do agree with Gerald's comment on the, I was thinking it, but I didn't say it, the piers in the front. I think the one that he was highlighting in between the corner, I guess it's the northern corner and the main sidewalk. That one in the middle, I think really could be omitted, and the design would be, I think, better. I think the rest of it, I don't have any issue with.
Okay, thank you. Ed Kane.
I think a lot of thought went into this proposal, and I like the 6 piers in the front.
Okay. I like the rhythm of the 6 piers in the front. I think it feels right to me. But I think it's a great design. I think it's a great project, and thank you for doing it. Gerald, your thoughts, please.
Overall, I like the project very much, and I think the materials that are being used and the design that's being used is in keeping with the house and in keeping with the neighborhood. I do think these piers are quite odd. There are a number of other stone piers on the same street, and they're all much, much taller. So these are 3 feet tall. They're going to be very stubby relative to other piers in the street. It's not going to look to anybody like there used to be wrought iron between these piers. They're going to look like they're decorative piers. And I don't have a great reason for not supporting the piers. I just want to point out they're odd. And so the way I make sense of the piers is simply that 2 of them are anchoring the 2 sides of the driveway. 2 of them anchor the walkway. 1 anchors the property line at the left. And I think this 6th pier, I don't know that it's the hill that I'm going to die on, but I think the 6th pier it's affected. It's trying to achieve a look as if there had once been a wrought iron fence, but of course you're not going to have a 2.5-foot high wrought iron fence. And so I think it's just a distraction. I think this is a much cleaner project if we just have the 5 piers. And I'd support the project if there were just the 5 piers.
But you wouldn't support it with the 6 piers?
I might not.
Okay.
I just think it looks silly.
Okay. All right. And I think it's a natural rhythm if you look at it. You take that one out, just as part of deliberating, if you take that out, you got this long space, and then you've got the other piers. But
right. So the question for me, as we deliberate, the question for me is this a wrought iron fence that needs stone supports at regular intervals? Or are these decorative piers that mark the boundaries of the property and mark the entryway and mark the driveway?
Well, I just think it's strictly rhythm. I think it's strictly rhythm.
Right. And for me, there's no wrought iron fence. And so I would just think of the piers as being endpoints. And so there are 5 endpoints here. And so that for me is a natural place to put the piers. Otherwise, it just looks funny to me. And I'm trying to pay attention to other places where we have hedges and other places where we have piers. When we have piers, they're usually much taller and there's wrought iron running between them. Or if we have hedges, they're continuous. So I'd like to see the 2 hedges continuous.
Okay. I'm trying to get the temperature of everyone to see where we're going with it. And Kirsten Solberg, your thoughts, please.
Rear of the building design, I have no problem with it. To me, it actually echoes the Eastman house a little bit in their wisteria. Front of the building, it doesn't bother me. I think missing that extra pier would be kind of a tooth missing in the front of the house. And I understand where you're coming from, where it's simulating an iron fence that once was, but to me, this is almost a modern interpretation of modern, but ode to tradition at the same time. It just doesn't bother me. I saw the proposal and nothing stuck out. And I personally will leave it up to the owner. They've heard our thoughts.
Okay. We're a little bit split here. It seems as if Isaac would like 5 piers, as well as Gerald. I'm not quite sure about Ed. I know Kirsten, and I know where I stand. Do you want to, should we make a motion with the case the way it is and vote on it? Ed, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I said that I liked the 6 piers.
Okay.
I think Dr. Kaufman likes the 6 piers too. We should give some weight to that.
Okay. If you want, did you want to give me a motion, Ed?
Okay. Case number 3A-009-20-2150 Hawthorne Street. to install brick and stone 6 piers and hedge plantings at the front yard lot line and to replace a stone patio with flagstone, brick, and a wisteria arbor in the rear yard of this single-family home.
I can second.
Okay, thank you. A motion has been made by Ed Kane and properly seconded by Kirsten Solberg. I'll call each member out and ask them how they vote toward this motion. Start with Isaac Brocker.
Yay.
Isaac votes yay for the motion. Ed Kane.
Yay.
Ed Kane votes yay for the motion. I'm next, Christopher Coretta. I vote yay for the motion. Gerald Gam.
Yay.
Gerald Gam votes yay for the motion. And Kirsten Solberg.
Yay.
Kirsten Solberg votes yay. It's a unanimous 5 votes. Thank you very much for the presentation. That closes this case. And when Matthew is ready, we'll call the next case, please.
Okay, case number 4 is file number A-010-2021. It's a certificate of appropriateness at 79 Atkinson Street. The applicant is the property owners, Theodore Forsyth and Ali Fernandez. My apologies to any name I butcher. And the project architect is Serge Safsman, and the zoning district is R3 High Density Residential District. This says East Avenue Preservation District on the agenda, but this is Cornhill Preservation District. And the purpose is to remove 4 existing wood windows and replace them with new solid wood windows of similar design at the sides and rear of this single family home.
Great. I need to swear everyone in. We'll start with Theodore Forsyth. Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Ali Fernandez, do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. And Serge Vestman, do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth?
Yeah, it's really frustrating to see that blur in your face.
Thank you. Okay, so we are ready for your application and your presentation.
Hi, hello everyone. Thanks for the meeting this evening. Not very good at talking in front of groups, even though this is on Zoom. I first wanted to say we're very sorry about Jim DeVinny. He's a huge loss to our neighborhood, and I'm sure it's a loss to you all as well, being on the board with him. He was so important to this neighborhood, and I will definitely miss him a lot. So our house, we bought the house 7 years ago and we absolutely love it. We've always tried to do right by our house, and I've decided to do a kitchen remodel. And with the kitchen remodel, we need to change 2 sizes of windows, and we would like to replace 2 other windows, same size as the same size that they already are. We are making one thinner and we're making one shorter. The kitchen in the house was not in the area where it is right now. When the last owner moved in, the first owner was cooking on a coal stove in the basement. And so there was no first floor kitchen in the home when they purchased it in 1985. So they put in a kitchen. And so where the one window is, you can't access the whole window because there is a counter in front of it. So that's a big problem. I've never been able to wash that window. It's had stains down it since we moved in. It drives me crazy. You can't get it into it from the inside or the outside of the window. So we're proposing to make that window smaller so you can get at it when and then I guess we could talk about that later on. But I guess that is it for me right now.
Well, the only other thing I would add to that is just that the window on one of the windows on the east side would be thinned. Did you talk about those?
No, I
to
kind of,
to include we're gonna turn our very large bathroom into a sort of a powder room and include a pocket door using one of the original doors in the kitchen. So that wall would need to that window would need to be thinned slightly to create the space to put the wall. So those two windows would be changed, and then the other two windows, the sizing wouldn't change. It would just be replacing those windows. That would be
Okay.
yeah. Sorry, we're just trying to get our seating here.
No, no
right?
problem.
I just want to talk a little bit about the timeline. We reached out to Indie Design to start this process back in late 2019. We solidified our contract with them in the fall of 2020. Obviously, during the pandemic, we had met before them to sort of get ideas for design about how this would work, what the kitchen might be. We bought appliances for this new kitchen in 2020. Those are waitlisted right now until we have space to put them. So they're actually being held by Charlotte Furniture for us. And then in January of 2021, folks from Indy were like, and actually Rochester Colonial combined were like, hey, did you guys apply for a permit from the city to do this? And we're like, what? We were not aware. And so we looked into it and we submitted our first application to Chris in March of 2021. He said, you've got to do a little bit more work on this. I'm going to give it back to you. So we worked on it again feverishly over that month and resubmitted it to him in February 2021. Again, we rejected, saying we needed elevation maps, what you're seeing on the screen right now. So then we, in May of 2021, we hired Design Works Architecture, and Serge came out and did these beautiful renderings of the house. And here we are in October of 2021. So this project has gone a little bit longer than we anticipated. We spent $5,200 up to this point, and we're not even at the point of ordering the windows or remodeling. So, this is because of resource increase costs due to the pandemic. This project's now probably over $100,000, and it's a lot of time and energy and somewhat frustration based on the fact that we're trying to change out 4 windows in the back. But I'm going to let Serge talk about the windows for a minute and step back. So thank you all.
Good evening. I just wanted to, to say that a lot of these windows, if you've been out to the site, you've noticed they're at the rear and not visible from the street. They have their neighbors' full support on either side to change these windows, and I believe there was a record of at least 1 or 2 window restoration experts that have written in responding to our inquiries that that the windows themselves obviously could be repaired at some point or at any point of distress, but it would not achieve the outcome that the homeowners would like, which is a new window that's not leaky, that will serve the purpose of their new kitchen and their design intent. So I think if the board has questions, we are happy to answer them.
All right. Thank you very much for the presentation. I did want to just go back a little bit and say that all board members did visit the property, as well as case number 3, just to get it on record, and case number 1. So we will start with questions, and we'll start with Kirsten Solberg. Kirsten, any questions for the applicants?
I noticed at the rear of the house that the windows are 4/4 and the ones in the front are 1/1. If you know what I mean, that the ones in the back have the cross panes and the ones in the front. Are the ones in the rear original to the house, as far as you know?
we have no idea.
Okay.
It appears.
I'm guessing.
We assume so.
We assume so.
Yeah.
But I mean, they did at some point put the metal tracks on them. So obviously that wouldn't have been original. So that part we do not know. We know that at some point something changed for the back of the house. The material on the back of the house is a different material than wood clapboard. It's aluminum. So at some point, something was done in the back, but we have no idea what.
And then my other question would be, could you speak to the patterning and why you're choosing not to match the original windows?
You mean with the lattice?
Yes.
You mean, so I just fell in love with the lattice. If you look at the front of the house, there's lattice. I don't know, do we have a picture of the front of the house?
I think it's in the attic window. Yeah.
Our attic window has lattice work. I don't think we have a picture of it.
Not in the application.
Our front window has lattice work. That's really pretty. And I just loved the look of it. And since you can't see it from the front of the house at all, I just thought it would just be an upgrade to the look of the kitchen and to the look of the house.
Okay. Those are the questions. Well, actually, I have one more. The window adjacent to the one that you're making thinner.
Yes.
That's going to be the original size.
Correct.
Okay. That's not a question. Just wanted to verify. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
Can we just talk about like what page we're on or what elevation?
I was referencing page 40. Looking at the one window that's being made thinner, and next to the other one, I just wanted to verify that that size was remaining the same.
It's the elevation.
Oh, I'm sorry. I do have one more question. The one on the west elevation, where you say infill opening with painted wood panel, is there a reason that you wouldn't do siding there and rather you would do a wood panel?
I think he means the clapboard. That's probably not correct. It's going to be exactly the same clapboard. That
Okay,
is
so there
already
wouldn't
in
be
the
a
house.
wooden panel beneath the window.
No, absolutely not. That would look ridiculous.
Okay.
I would have a fit.
All right, I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, that is interesting.
Thanks, Kirsten. Gerald Gam, questions, please.
Yes, so I had a question about the clapboard. You've already answered that. Kirsten already raised one of my questions, which is about the lattice on the window. If we look at this elevation, page 41, I just want to call everyone's attention to the fact that there are, not paying attention to the new window, two window styles. Kirsten pointed out the two window styles, some are 4/4, some are 1/1. My question for the applicants, if we deliberated and we approved the window substitution, but required that they either be 4/4 or 1/1 so that they were consistent with the other windows on the house, other than the aesthetics from inside the kitchen, is there any reason that would cause you to stop going forward with this project?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, so my only other question is, in the staff report, it says the applicant attempted to contact window restoration specialists for an evaluation to see if the existing windows could be repaired, but could not find a local specialist who would complete this work. Could you just tell us who you contacted and what they said? And I'm asking this just for the record. Well, I'm asking it for the record because typically our default is to require that original windows be repaired. But in my experience as a homeowner in the city, I would not be shocked to learn that you've contacted very good people and discovered that people simply aren't able to do this work. So can you tell us who you contacted and what exactly they said?
So first, Serge contacted the Landmark Society, and Serge, do you want to? Who was the woman that you spoke to there?
Caitlin Meaves recommended two gentlemen that could restore windows. One is local. He responded, and I had Chris Snyder include that as a record, that correspondence, because he stated, clearly his inability to do the work because there's a conflict of interest. There's no window that he can't repair. and that, certainly is in conflict with replacing and putting in a new window that will restore an original window that's insufficient for a modern home. And then the second gentleman was out of Mount Morris, and I could look up his contact info, but he was unavailable. He was interested, and then he became sick and could not come to even have a look. So
I guess I'm confused because if the correspondence is in the staff report, I can't find it, and I may just be missing it. So maybe somebody can tell me the page. But my understanding is 2 people were contacted. Both of them said, in theory, the work could be done. In practice, they couldn't do it, and they didn't know who could. It sounds like you're saying the first person said they could do it, but there was some sort of conflict of interest.
he would not entertain coming out to file a report. A, because he is busy, and B, is in his statement was that there was a conflict of interest for him because he cannot file a report to this board and say that, and say that this window cannot be restored or repaired because he can rebuild it in kind. That does not achieve a modern window that has dual pane, that's still wood framed and achieves the look and size requirements of this new kitchen.
Okay, so this is different from what the staff report says. So the first window person said he can repair the windows if you want the windows repaired.
Well, he could repair any window in any state of disrepair.
I understand that, but part of what I'm trying to get at is we own a house that's covered in old wood windows, and I've come to appreciate windows in theory can be repaired, but in practice, finding people who can do it anytime in the next couple of years is proving incredibly difficult. So is he
Right,
saying, is he saying he can do it and he'll show up Monday to do it?
No. He's saying any window he sees, he can repair, but
Right.
he refuses to do it because
He's very backlogged.
well, yeah, he's busy and he doesn't want to waste people's time. He knows we want to make a one window thinner, one window shorter, and we want to replace the windows to look a certain way. And he's saying, why would I come out and do this report and give it to the preservation board to say, hey, you can repair any window, I can do this, only to have the homeowner say, well, we don't want that, we want to actually change our windows. So he felt like that was a conflict of interest and he didn't want to proceed. He just flat out rejected Serge's email saying, can you come out and take a look? He said, no, I'm not going to waste my time.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
And that was similar to the second guy, Brandon, from the old house company. I mean, he said the same thing, essentially. And he was actually willing to come out and take a look, but then he got sick. And he said, if I do these assessments on the ones you want to keep, like not change the shape, I can't do the work and I'd have to find people to do the work for you.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah.
Any other questions, Gerald? No?
I also, I'm sorry, can I say one more thing real quick?
Please, sure.
I also want to say that 2 years ago, our upstairs pipes froze because the downstairs, that downstairs where the back area has 3 windows in it that leak terribly, and it gets so cold that it froze the pipes. So that's another like serious issue with those windows and why I wanted to get just new, better windows with better seals. So.
Okay, my question is the east elevation, the 2 windows that you want to replace, you're making them shorter, is that correct?
No, the east elevation is making them, one window is thinner, one window is staying the same. The west elevation is getting shorter.
The west elevation is getting shorter. Okay, I thought it was the east elevation from what I read.
No.
Okay.
No, the east elevation is
four
getting
windows.
thinner where we're doing the powder room and yeah.
So
the
that,
property. Okay, 2 to 4 windows will be reduced in vertical size. They'll be moved from their existing window location. Okay, I was confused. I thought that the ones on the eastern facade were going to be a little shorter. I was going to ask how you were going to address the shutters, but if they're not going to be affected.
Yeah, the height will remain the same. So the shutters are just going to move moved over essentially.
Sure. Okay, I have no further questions. Ed Kane?
I have no further questions either.
All right, thank you. Isaac Rocker, any questions for the applicants?
Yeah, just a couple of questions. On the east elevation, the window that's being proposed is being more narrow. Is there any way that could be the same width as the others? Because it just looks like that portion of the facade is so symmetrical with the two windows that are on the top and then the lower window. It just the proportion of the window in relation to the shutter just looks off. So is there, not having the floor plan, I couldn't really see exactly what was going on there. I was hoping that maybe there was a way that we could make the window the same width as those others, just I think it would visually look better.
Unfortunately not, because there's a sink that butts right up to the corner of that window. So we couldn't go any more to the left.
Yeah, to the left.
To the left with it, because then we wouldn't be able to have a sink in the powder room. And you really can't go any more to the right with it, because then the shutters are going to be touching each other.
Mm-hmm. And on the pattern, I think this is the lattice pattern that was brought up earlier. When I was looking at the house from the street, I did notice the window in the attic, but I think the window in the attic had more of a curving lattice pattern, and it wasn't as rectilinear as the one that's being proposed. Is my recollection correct?
Yes,
I think so.
Yes. And they do have the curving pattern as well, that you can choose from. They do have that arch pattern as well.
Okay. Yeah, and I have no problem. I think what you're proposing on the west side with the smaller window, I think it kind of mirrors that existing window that's further to, I guess, the south nicely. So I guess my only comment is really going to be, I think I would like to see the pattern match what's on the rest of that section of the facade.
That's fair.
And I would also say, sorry, just really quick. Especially, so I think that was it the window that's right beside on the east elevation, right beside the window you're making narrower. That's basically the same size window. You're just putting in a new window.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. The same size exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would also encourage you, as you're thinking about replacing these windows, a new modern window is not going to have the longevity as a window that was built whenever 100 years ago, whenever this house was built. So just keep that in mind. You're thinking about this.
Yeah, I mean, the windows that we have selected, they're $6,000 a piece. So it's not like we're going like a cheap route. And yes, I realize that the ones that are there now, but it'll just be nice to get those ugly metal tracks out.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the metal track is so ugly on the outside of the house.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there's also something, I mean, potentially wood storm windows that could be revisited for other portions of the home if you're thinking about removing those as well. But it's not necessarily, I think, yes, the windows you're looking at are most likely, very expensive, but it's also the old growth wood, which is what makes the windows very, very hardy in terms of weathering the elements. But those are my only questions or comments.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any other board members have any other questions? If not, thank you very much. If not, we'll go back to Matt. If there's any public testimony that needs to be read into record.
No public comment for this, nor is there any member of the public signed up to speak.
Great, thank you. And then Mr. Worth, if you just wanted to talk about deliberations, I think we'll go into we'll close the public portion and go into deliberations.
Yes, so this concludes the public hearing portion of the meeting. The board members are going to go into deliberations, which everyone is welcome to observe, but will not be having the participation of the applicants or anyone from the public.
Great. Thank you, Tom. We'll start with Kirsten. What are your thoughts on this case, Kirsten?
All right, I'm gonna try to keep it clear because I know there's several windows to talk about here. As much as I understand where the homeowner's coming from with the lattice windows, to me, it just seems foreign to the rest of the house. I guess I would like to still see the 4/4 window. I think that the wood windows proposed are of the right quality, and I don't have a problem approving those for the windows the 2 windows that change size as you have to take out the window and put a new window in. I'd like to hear what other people say about whether the 2 windows that are to remain the same size, whether we say, well, if there's some renovation being done, are we okay replacing all windows, or do we want the 2 windows that remain to be restored? Other than that, I'm okay with the size change. I'm okay with the wood windows. That's what I got.
Okay, thank you. Gerald, your thoughts, please.
My thoughts are, I'm okay signing off on replacing all 4 windows. I have been vigilant in my years on the board to push people to repair windows whenever possible. But in this case, we have 4 windows. 2 of them really are being changed out anyways. And the other 2, we have testimony from 2 different people who've been very reluctant to come and repair the windows. And I have to say that's consistent with my experience knowing window repair people in this area and knowing how backed up they are, that what could be done in theory is a very difficult thing to do in reality. So I would support replacing the 4 windows. I think the proposed replacements are as consistent as we could ever ask for the house. They're wood windows. However, to maintain consistency, I agree with Kirsten. I think the new windows need to be either 1/1s or 4/4s. On the east elevation, I would do them both 4/4s. Can we see page 41? And I would do 4/4s because they're under 4/4s. This page, I would also do 4/4s because the whole rear of the house is 4/4s. And can we see the last elevation? And then this one, yeah, I would also do 4/4s. So I'm with Kirsten. I like the lattice in theory, but it is not fitting for the house. I would support the replacement. I would support these wood windows, but I would require that they be 4/4.
Okay, thanks, Gerald. I would totally agree with Gerald as well as Kirsten. I'll keep it short and sweet. Ed Kane.
I'll keep it short and sweet too. I totally agree with you.
Thank you. And Isaac Brocker.
Yeah, I think that everyone captured my thoughts as well. So I'm fine with this direction.
Great, thank you. Isaac, would you like to give me a motion, please?
Sure. Case number 4, file number A-0-1-21-22 for a certificate of appropriateness for the property at 79 Atkinson Street for the removal of 4 existing windows and replacing them with new solid wood windows at the rear of the single family home. I am proposing that we approve this project with the amendment that we do the 4/4 windows for the replacement windows at the rear of the home. I think that was the only change I think.
For the rear or for all the elevations?
Oh, yeah, all the elevations, but they were essentially on the rear of the home, yeah.
But for all the elevations, for all 4
All
windows.
4 windows will be 4/4?
Yes.
Yeah, yes.
And no lattice?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I second.
Okay, a motion has been made by Isaac Brocker and properly seconded by Gerald Gamm. I will call each board member for their vote. We'll start with Kirsten Solberg. Do you vote yay or nay for this motion?
Yay.
Kirsten Solberg votes yay for the motion. Gerald Gamm, yay or nay for the motion?
Yay.
Gerald Gamm votes yay for the motion. I'm next. Christopher Coretta. I vote yay for the motion. Ed Kane?
Yay.
Ed Kane votes yea for the motion, and Isaac Brocker.
I vote yay.
Isaac Brocker votes yea. That's a 5 unanimous votes. Thank you very much for the application and the work. That closes this case, and whenever Matthew is ready, we'll call case number 5.
Okay, case number 5 is a certificate of appropriateness, file number A-011, 2021. The applicant is Teodoro Mariano, and that individual is the property owner. And this property address is 273 Alexander Street. The zoning district is R3 High Density Residential District. There's also an overlay boutique district, and it's in the East Avenue Preservation District. And the purpose is to demolish a garage and extend an existing wood fence at the rear of this mixed-use building.
Thank you, sir. And all board members have visited the site. And I will swear in the owner. Is he with us?
He's not.
Okay.
It looks like he's not here.
Okay. Shall we go to the next case? And if he comes in, we can always jump back to this case.
Yep, that sounds like a good idea.
Anna, did you notice if he came in earlier and left by any chance?
No, he hasn't been here the entire evening.
Okay. All right, let's go to the next case then. Let me stop this one and jump to the next one. All right, so we are going on to case number 6. All right, case number 6 is file A-012, 2021. It is a certificate of appropriateness at 19 Arnold Park. The applicant is the project architect, Jennifer Ahrens. Zoning district is R2 Medium Density Residential District. This is also the East Avenue Preservation District. And the purpose here is to remove an existing rear stair and walkway area and replace it with a new manufactured stone stair with steel railings and a stone walkway, and to install a wood framed canopy with copper roofing over the rear stair of a single family home. And Jennifer is on with us tonight.
Yes, the owners are on too.
Oh, the owners
Okay.
are on as well. Oh, yes.
Will the owners be,
This is Roy
be speaking
Baldwin.
or testifying?
No, they're on just to provide witness and to answer any questions.
Okay,
Well,
great.
so if they're gonna, why don't we swear them as well then?
Okay, great. I'm sorry, their names again?
Roy
Roy.
Baldwin, and Emmeline Logan Baldwin.
Logan Baldwin. Okay. Thank you for that. And I did want to say that all board members did visit the site. We'll start with Jennifer Ahrens. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. You
Yes.
solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes,
And Roy Baldwin, do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Roy, you're
Actually,
on mute. He's
you're
on mute.
There we go.
Hello. Hi, Roy. Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do, yes. Thank you. And Emily Logan Baldwin, do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Great. Thank you very much. And Jennifer, we're ready for the presentation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. It's been a long meeting so far, so I appreciate your attention. I'm here, Jennifer Ahrens from Bureau Architecture. I'm representing the homeowners Roy Baldwin and Emmeline Baldwin for their proposed exterior modifications at 19 Arnold Park. Roy and Emmy, they've been proud homeowners of this very unique and historically significant residence for over 50 years. They've lovingly maintained, upkeep, and repaired their home over the years. They contacted Bureau Architecture and engaged us at the beginning of this year to help assist them with the design of a rear entrance modifications because they wanted to improve the safety and the aesthetics of their back door entry. It's important to Roy and Emmeline that all the design elements that we looked at are compatible and in keeping with the historic building fabric. The existing home is constructed of brick masonry. It's painted. It has stone sills and stone foundations. The roof eave brackets are very dominant. When you look at the building, they're elaborately detailed and painted. There are evenly spaced brackets along the overhang. The front entrance is quite a piece at the bottom of the tower. It has an arch canopy with engaged pilasters and a set of wood doors. We're looking at the rear entrance, and the work proposed here is to provide a small canopy covering over the existing rear door in order to provide protection from rain and wind, and also to replace the existing steep and uneven concrete steps. We're going to replace them with a landing and gentle steps that go from grade up to the landing in front of the door. The proposed roof covering is a heavy timber canopy supported by shaped wood brackets. And the design references the form and the cut of the detailed cornice brackets that are up at the upper cornice eaves. The gabled canopy will be covered in a standing seam copper roof that will match the standing seam copper roof of the front entry tower. And although it's a rear and secondary entry, it was important to Roy and Emmy to have a smaller scale, less detailed canopy element, but in all the moves we were making to maintain the quality of design and the material use. So the steep and failing concrete steps will be replaced by cast stone steps that lead up to an enlarged landing that is also made out of those cast stone. The nosing on the stone steps are going to be similar to the highly detailed nosing on the front entry Medina sandstone steps, which are quite magnificent if you were able to see them up close. The exterior door, we don't believe it's original to the house. It's not character defining. It's not within keeping to the era of the house. We're recommending replacing it because we want to reverse the swing, because once you get to the top of the landing, in order to have a safer access into the house, we have to reverse the swing. So it's either replace it with a door that's more in keeping with the design of the house, or do a lot of carpentry repairs to get rid of, change the lock set, change the hinges and switch it around. So it was really the intention of the owner to have a door that's more in keeping with the other door that's on the exterior and the back, and to also have the benefits of a highly durable weather strip door. So the new proposed wood door will be rail and style with authentic divided lights, and it will be painted to match the adjacent wood sash. The glazing pattern is proposed to be match the adjacent windows that are in the enclosed porch. Let's see, the steps will have a shop fabricated metal handrail, and it's basically the elements are all standard steel components that will be welded in a shop and powder coated to finish. The metal elements, we selected them to be compatible with a really high quality that the residence is, that it's well suited to the cast stone landings and treads and the design of the rest of the house. There is an exterior light fixture that will remain in place, and the owner has collected salvaged sandstone pavers that they will have placed into a sandstone patio that's at the base of the steps, and that the pavers will lead out through the south gate to the garage. So that concludes our presentation that we have right now.
Very cool house, great presentation, very thorough. Thank you. We'll start with Isaac Brocker with questions. Isaac, any questions for the applicant?
No, I think this is a pretty straightforward proposal. I think it's a very handsome addition to the house. I think it's obviously a quality project, and I love the way that the stairs unfold and cascade around the corner. I think it's a great project, and I support it.
Great, thank you. Ed Kane, any questions for the applicant?
I think it's a well thought out project. I have no questions.
Very good, thank you. I'm next. I have no questions. Very well done. Gerald Gam, questions?
I have no questions either. This is a superb project, the right materials, the right design. It actually enhances this historic and iconic house.
Thank you. Kirsten Solberg, questions?
I repeat everything that everyone has already said. Your applications are always very thorough, and I appreciate it.
Great. We'll go over to Matthew and see if there's any public testimony that needs to be read into the record, or if there's anyone waiting to speak.
There is a member of the public waiting to speak. I'm gonna promote him over. This is John Lembach. John, you can. There we go. John, you can go ahead and unmute yourself to speak on 19 Arnold Park.
Chris, when he does get on, if you could just swear him in.
Oh yeah, thanks, Tom. John Lembach, are you there?
Yes, I think so.
Oh,
Right,
there you are.
great. I'll just swear you in real quick. John Lembach, do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. We're ready for you.
The Park Banks Board mourns the loss of Jim Davini, who's a valued member of your board for many years. And we're sorry that he's not able to continue with the board at this time. Our board has discussed this particular project, and we like this house a lot over the years, and we're glad that somebody's taken the time to do a thoughtful addition in the back to correct some of the problems and to not muddle up this fine looking house. It's been a keystone for our area for many years. We appreciate every time we walk down the street. And they are also gracious hosts generally for the Ghost Walk every year. A lot of people may not realize that. So we do approve of this application. Request that you also pass this. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Any further public comment?
No further public comment on this.
Okay, great. With that, we will close the public portion. Jennifer or the homeowners, if they'd like to say anything to what was said, you're more than welcome to. You have the right to, but you don't have to.
No, thank you for your review. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Worth, we're going to go into deliberations. Oh, you're on mute.
This portion of the meeting is deliberations. The public hearing portion has been closed, and this will be the members of the board deliberating on what decision to make. And everyone's welcome to witness it, but we won't have any participation by the applicants or the public.
Thank you. We'll start with Isaac Brocker. Isaac, what are your thoughts on this case, please?
I'll just echo my earlier comments. I think this is a great project, quality addition to the house, and I think it fully fits with the character of the house and the architecture, and I would support the project as proposed.
Thank you. Ed Kane, your thoughts, please.
My thoughts are that I too support the project as proposed. I think it's a very well thought out project.
Great, thank you. I feel the same. I'll be short and sweet again. I would completely support this project as it sits. Gerald Gam?
I agree with my colleagues. It's a model presentation and a model project.
Thank you. Kirsten Solberg?
Support the same.
Ditto, in other words.
Yep.
All right, thank you. Can I get a motion from someone, please?
Sure. I'd like to put forth a motion for file number A-012-2122 for 19 Arnold Park to approve the removal of an existing rear stair and walkway area, replace it with new manufactured stone stair and steel railing, stone walkway, and install a wood frame canopy and copper roofing, exactly as proposed in the application.
Second.
Thank you. A motion was made by Kirsten Solberg, Vice Chair, seconded by Isaac Brocker. I'll call each member and ask them for their vote. We'll start with Isaac Brocker. Isaac, do you vote yay or nay for this motion?
Yay.
Isaac Brocker votes yay. Ed Kane, yay or nay for this motion, please?
Yay.
Ed Kane votes yay for the motion. I'm next, Christopher Coretta. I vote yay for this motion. Gerald Gam.
I vote yay.
Gerald Gam votes yay. And Kirsten Solberg.
Yay.
Kirsten Solberg votes yay. It's a unanimous 5 votes. Thank you very
Chairman,
much.
can I make a point of, can you indulge me for a point of personal privilege? In
Please.
1975, when I was 11 years old, I went to court for the first time to witness a court argument. And I decided it involved a fair housing case to establish or fight against housing discrimination in the town of Penfield. And I decided that day when I was 11, I wanted to be a lawyer. And the person who made that oral argument was Evelyn Logan Baldwin. So
Oh, wow.
I want to send my respects and greetings to her if she's still on the line.
Great. All right. Well, thank you very much. And that closes this case. And Matthew, if you would call case 7 when you're ready, please.
Yes, case 7, the last case on the agenda this evening, is file A-013-2021. It is a certificate of appropriateness case located at 200 Park Avenue. The applicants are the property owner, John Maggio, Art Iantalucci, the project consultant, and Joe O'Donnell, the project architect. The zoning district is R2 medium density residential district with an OB overlay boutique, all located in the East Avenue Preservation District. And the purpose this evening is to convert an existing 4-car garage into a commercial building, which includes exterior alterations to the existing garage structure, as well as site alterations, including landscaping, stone piers, pedestrian walkways, and the relocation of 2 side yard air conditioning units to the rear yard.
Great. Thank you. Looks like we have Carly Maggio here this evening.
Hi, yes.
Hi, Carly, and Art Antelucci.
Yes, Chris.
All right.
Chairperson and John Maggio as well.
Oh, John Maggio's here too. Okay.
Yes, he is. And Joe O'Donnell, who the architect worked on this is with Carly, as well as did the site plan for us. Unfortunately, it was a light scratch and was unable to be online with us tonight. But certainly, Carly, you swear us all in because we'll all be speaking. John may speak at the end. But Carly certainly, if there's questions about materials, etc., she should swear us all in at this point.
All right, great. I'll start with Carly. Carly Maggio, do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. And John Maggio, do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And Art Antelucci, do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for that. We are ready for your presentation.
Okay, thank you very much.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Art. I just wanted to also say that all board members did visit the property. Please, Art, go ahead.
Thank you for that. Thank you for hearing us tonight. As Matt indicated, and I know you've had a long night, so we're going to be as brief as we can and get all the information into you. But basically, we're taking a worn, deteriorated garage with a leaky roof and inoperable doors, and we want to make some alterations to that garage, both interior and exterior. You're, of course, interested in the exterior alterations, and also some alterations to the site, basically to facilitate the reuse of this property for overlay boutique uses. And so that's our purpose, that's our request. In terms of the physical changes we're proposing, and which we think are all, very, very positive given the existing condition of the site and the parking lot in front of the garage. But we'll be replacing 2 of the existing overhead door openings with new steel, heavy-duty, insulated, quietly operating steel overhead doors. And then in the other 2 openings, will be installing their casement windows and man doors for the potential future boutique uses. The man doors will be wood. We will reopen openings that had been closed on the west and east sides of the buildings, the sides of the garage as you face it, and putting in casement windows, 1 on each side of the building. And we will then have 5 lights on the building, very subtle, we think, and only on the front facade, nothing on the site or the parking lot. Nothing obtrusive by any means. There's also, I think, 3 brackets, wooden brackets, on the top of the facade beneath the roof area that are new. We don't have any signs proposed right now because we don't know who the tenants might be, but we've blocked out sign boards, actually 4 of them. Obviously, any signs we would put in there would have to have the approval of either the director or the board, but they would have to meet, of course, the regulations for the OB district. So you can see where the area is defined to accept those signs, but we don't have the specifics on those signs yet. So basically, we're creating a very active facade on this sort of dark building. It's a pedestrian scale building. It will have a good degree of transparency when it doesn't now. And all those things, the active facade, the pedestrian scale, transparency, etc., are all things that are talked about again and again in the 2034 plan. So we feel it's in line with that plan. So as far as the site itself, you could see, and I know you've visited the site, that there's an absence of any kind of front yard setback or landscape space at the front of the parking lot. And it really, to some degree, the parking lot almost looks like a separate parking lot and garage, almost look like a separate property, and that the office building has been so tastefully redone, I believe with the approval of this board, both inside and out. And this side of the property, it's all on one site. This side of the property is lacking. So this landscape space with a hedgerow that we're proposing, and we've set out a couple ideas, and one was, excuse me if I'm mispronouncing this, but choiceus. Another one was hornbeam. It's in your packet. And also, in listening to the earlier case, that velvet boxwood that you saw applied, proposed to be applied on Hawthorne would be very, very good as well. What we're after is something that is thick, continuous, and will have color, maybe flowering all year long. So that was our choices. So anything similar to those we're fine with doing. So the one last thing is there's a couple of mechanical units on the east side of the main office building, and the city, as I understand it, had been interested in those being moved from that location. We are planning to move them into the area behind the house, which will be exactly where the mechanical units for the property to the east are located. That's where they're located, behind the house. So that we've got a little sidewalk along the west side of the garage, and that's to facilitate access to the toters that would be used for the occupants of the garage. the parking lot now, as I said, sort of bleeds right into the right of way. There's no definition, there's no control of people accessing this property. And it really is, to a large degree, very unsafe. You know, the sidewalk is not protected, vehicular access is not defined. One thing I think this does, it kind of closes the gap between the pillars and that new hedge and the landscape space in what has been sort of like a tooth missing in that front facade of that block, and so that's a disruption in sort of the rhythm of the buildings and whatever other openings there are. And we think a big part of this is filling in and closing that gap, and feel it's very appropriate for the site. We have addressed some of the standards in the factors for C of A approval that we submitted with the application. I won't go through all of those, but I did want to mention that I may have missed this, but the windows will be wooden windows on the garage, but aluminum clad wooden windows. So the other thing I wanted to mention before closing is that we did meet with the Park Megs Association. They were nice enough to provide a letter for you in support of our proposal. And just to mention as well, the owner of the property, Mr. Maggio, also owns the property to the west, two-story frame structure, as well as to the property to the north on Arnold Park, which is directly behind the garage building. So with that, I just really like to open it up to questions and see if we can answer all your questions.
Great. Thank you, Art. Personally, I think it's great for the neighborhood. What a great project. We'll start with questions. We'll start with Kirsten Solberg.
All right. Just wanted a few clarifications. The cultured stone that came through, is that for the two piers at the front of the property?
Yes, that's for the two piers straddling the driveway, and it's identical to what is used on the piers at the base of the front porch of the office building.
Okay, so it'll match.
It will match
property. And there's also, will there be a capstone at the top?
Yes, there will. It'll be flat. I believe it's 2 square feet, 2 foot. Yeah, it's slightly larger, of course, than the top of the pier.
I was gonna say, similar to the other application that came through, you might want to slope it just for the rain.
Okay.
Then my other question is, I couldn't for the life of me zoom in on this application. Can you explain the facade materials a little bit? Are you painting the CMU, the existing CMU?
Carly,
I can jump in. Yeah. I don't know if you can scroll down to, there was another 3D view. Should be in the packet, which had some color on it. I'm not sure if that got scanned in.
No, which?
Okay.
Oh, yes, page 10 of the.
I just couldn't read the tiny print.
Bear with me here, guys. I'll pull up.
I think it's page 10, Carly.
Okay.
I think that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, if you could turn that helps a little bit more on this top right.
This view here?
Yep, that's perfect. So material wise, right now it's kind of a rough face CMU block around the exterior. And what we're doing is we're going to fill in the 2 outer openings with regular garage doors and then infill the 2 other openings with the man door, casework, and then kind of just fiber cement paneling to fill out the rest of that space there. So that will be just a smooth painted paneling. And really we're trying to get this thing to look like the house that it's kind of attached to. So colors will be the same. Some of the details will be the same. Trim sizes should be the same.
So fiber cement and painting the side.
Yes.
CMU block.
Yes.
And then the other change from the application is that the vinyl windows will actually be wood clad aluminum.
Yes, that was just a change from the staff report we had gotten.
Okay. And sorry, last one, the AC units that serve this garage will be tucked behind the adjacent building. Is that correct?
Those AC units are for the existing office building to.
'Cause it says new proposed in the annotation.
Yeah, Art, I don't know if you want to jump in, but.
Yeah, it's, there's existing AC units on the east side of the building. Those will be, and they serve the office building, and those will be moved to an area behind the office building.
So those are being moved to that location. And what about the units that will serve the garage?
No, I don't know if those will. No.
Is there any screening proposed for those units?
No, we felt that getting them off the lot line and behind the building, again, adjacent to the units for the property to the east, which themselves are unscreened, had them really tucked away from public view in that corner. So we did not propose any additional screening.
Yeah, because our staff might not advise you. There's citywide design guidelines that require to the maximum extent possible screening from view or isolating so not to be visible from the public right of way. So is that located in a place where it's not visible?
They're located now where they're visible from the right of way.
I'm not talking about now, but like where you're
proposed behind the building, they will be totally invisible from the public.
I think they're pretty tucked away there.
Yeah.
But those serve the office building.
Goodman, is it Goodman that's to the east? There's another property until you get to Goodman.
There's two properties.
Yeah, so it's not facing the right of way on Goodman then.
No,
it's not.
Okay,
What
that was
about-
my only question.
Will there be units for the existing garage?
Yes.
Possibly, yes,
Mhm.
depending on the use. Yeah, possibly, yes.
So then those would have to come back in order to place those potentially,
Yeah.
unless we know where those would go. Or can we talk about them theoretically?
Well,
I would, yeah.
go ahead, Carly.
Okay.
I was thinking we could place them on the west of our garage piece, but it would be small.
And they'd have to be screened.
Yeah.
If they would fit behind the building, would that work?
Don't
I
have
have
enough
trouble here.
room
Can you
back
speak
there.
up, please?
I'm sorry? I said if they would fit behind the building, would that work?
I think there's building code implications for the rear of the building, right? Proximity to property line.
Okay, and then what about on top of the building, on top of the roof?
Carly, that might be something to think about since the roof is a membrane flat roof and the parapet raises up a foot or two in terms of natural screening of that parapet, depending on what kind of unit you decide to use.
Yeah, so I guess the options are roof or on the east with screening. Would we need to show you guys what the 3D of that looks like to be that it's hidden?
Tom, you're muted.
Same rules apply about screening, and I don't know if on the roof, whether it might be, well, I guess it would be it's potentially visible from Park Avenue. And visible from residential lots nearby. So yeah, you need to depict how you were going to shield it.
Once again, the parapets might serve that purpose. I believe the code is from 150 feet away from a 0.5 foot above the grade. That angle has to be shielded. So if there was something low on the roof, it could possibly work. Otherwise, if it was to be put on.
But it's also an exterior, those are the general standards, but it's also an exterior improvement that has to be addressed by a certificate of appropriateness.
Yes, understood.
We need a proposal, or you need to come back with one at another meeting.
Can that just be a conditional item then, like just something we need to determine? Because I think if these were to be placed on the roof, you would most definitely not see it from Park Ave with the way the grade changes and our parapet. And these are small units, so we're thinking probably just a like mini split would do the job for this.
Yeah, I think if the board is so inclined, and if it's all right with Matt Simonis, you could do allowed to place mechanical units on the top of the garage, provided that there are depictions demonstrating that they're not visible from any public right of way or residential district within 150 feet.
Okay.
That works, yeah.
Yep, that's
If
fine.
the board's so inclined.
We can prove that. Yeah.
Thank you, Tom.
I just want to save you a trip.
Gotcha.
And my last comment, you can honestly take or leave this one. I noticed the proposed bike rack. My feeling is you might want to put that near the existing garage just in terms of safety of bikes. But that is a side comment. But that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kirsten. Gerald, any questions for the applicants?
Yes, first, I just want to clarify, air conditioning for the garage is not part of this current proposal, correct?
You cut out for a second. Could you say it again, Gerald?
Yes,
Sorry.
I just want to clarify because we've spent a lot of time talking about air conditioning for the garage. That's not currently part of this proposal.
It is not.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify. And air conditioning for the main structure is being moved behind the structure where, and it's even visible here, proposed air conditioning unit on this diagram that we're all looking at. So we've all had an opportunity, to look at where the new air conditioning would go and to ensure that it's not visible from right of ways.
Yes.
But I did just want to confirm, none of us had an opportunity to think about air conditioning for the garage. So that was my first question. Second question, the pedestrian, the people doors for the garage. In the cut sheet, it looked like it was fiberglass, and yet I think you said it's going to be solid wood.
So that was one of the things that I think I did listen to your guys' pre-meeting. I think there's just confusion that we had updated drawings like right after we submitted and we had some staff comments. So one of the things we changed was that to wood. I think there was pushback on the fiberglass, so.
Right, so I love that they're wood. Okay, so the doors are in fact going to be solid wood.
Mhm.
The windows are going to be wood covered in aluminum. There's a fancy word for that. Okay, so my question is about the hedge and the piers, because this seems to be my night to be asking lots of questions about the pier. So the cobblestone that's proposed for the piers is going to be matched, is proposed to be matched the cobblestone under the porch for the house-like building.
Excuse me, Carl, I just want to clarify, it's not cobblestone. It said that on our plan, but in the corrected plan, it showed that it was going to be identical to the cultured stone at the base of the porch.
Right, so that's my question. The cobblestone-like stone is not actually stone, it's cultured stone, which is, I think, a kind of concrete product that's made to look like stone. And so the idea is to match it to the cobblestone-like cultured stone on those piers. So my question about the piers, have you given any thought to using big blocks of stone, real stone, to match the foundation of the house rather than those piers? To my eyes, walking around the East Avenue Preservation District, walking around all those homes in that district, there are piers made out of big blocks of stone, but the cobblestone-like foundational piers for the porch are not common in that neighborhood. And I wonder if instead of bringing that cobblestone-like cultured stone to the curb, if instead you could use big blocks of stone to match the foundation, because that's a much more common material for stone piers.
I just wonder if it would match though. I mean, the purpose was
The foundation of the house has this beautiful, have these beautiful big blocks of stone.
I'm not sure I follow it. It's the cultured stone that's on the house right now.
No.
Oh, I see. The house. You're not saying don't match the piers, match the house.
Yes, don't match those new piers, because to my eyes they look new. They don't. I wasn't on the board back then. They're not the sort of stonework that we would see in this neighborhood. What is the sort of stonework we'd see in the neighborhood is the foundation of the house. The foundation of the house are big blocks, beautiful stone And I'm wondering if any thought has been given to using those big blocks of stone for these piers so that that's what the pedestrian sees rather than bringing the cobblestone-like cultured stone, which is a very unusual material for the neighborhood.
I guess we were going for that the columns under the porch look more like the piers. So we would rather match those than match, you know, the house, because the squareness and, you know, the shape, the size and the shape are the same as the piers. So when you're looking on, you're seeing identical, you know what I'm trying to say? I'm not.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're trying to say. And I'm pushing back gently to suggest that those cobblestone-like piers may not be appropriate for the neighborhood. So why bring them to the curb instead of using the foundation stone, which is a much more appropriate material for the neighborhood? And then the piers on the house sort of fade into the distance rather than be brought to the street.
Right. I guess it was just that those underneath the porch were approved by the board, you know, 12 years ago. So we're just matching them.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Okay, for the hedge, my question about the hedge, the two hedges you're proposing, the flowery hedge, I am not familiar with, but I was just looking online. It looks very flower-like. And hornbeam can grow, I don't know, to 10, 15 feet. And it said it can be pruned in your own materials. It said it can be pruned to be a privacy hedge. But I'm assuming your plan for this hedge is not privacy. It's not to block the view. Like, that's a pruned privacy hedge. Hornbeam can, on the next page, the one that we simply, yes, there. So there it's actually pruned to be a privacy hedge. It normally would grow a lot taller than that. I'm assuming you don't want a hedge that blocks the view of the building.
Well, we like the boxwood one that was in the previous presentation today. I guess what I'm trying to do is we kind of added these piers and the shrubbery there afterwards, after I realized how much work we're going to do on the property, because what's happening with the property is because of the openness, everyone just pulls in and parks in my lot, basically. I'm looking for to establish some privacy, not from viewing, but just as a separation. So everybody's just not pulling in and parking and walking down the street and so on. Everybody believes this is like a public parking lot, the way it's set up now. So I agree. We do not want to create a blocking of the view. I'm more just trying to create a privacy of the property.
Okay,
so
that's actually really,
The hedge would be 3 feet high.
How high?
3 foot high hedge.
Right, so that makes sense to me too. So I would recommend during the deliberation portion that we give you freedom to use a more traditional hedge, whether it's boxwood or privet. I don't know if boxwood actually grows tall enough, but to use a traditional hedge that would grow to about 3 feet in height.
And as a matter of fact, if you to the building to the east, the house to the east of me has something about that 2-3 feet high, and so it would match with the house next door. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I have no other questions.
Thank you, Gerald.
I would be next. I have no questions. Ed Kane, any questions? Ed Kane, are you with us?
I was just trying to unmute myself.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ed. And Isaac Brocker, any questions for the applicants?
Just one question on the garage doors. It looks like there are 2 long horizontal glazed panels proposed at the garage, and I was wondering if you'd consider doing 4 as opposed to 2, because I think the proportion of that would look more in keeping.
I think there's 3 now. Okay, and the problem is with the 4. I think the 4 for the manufacturer, when I question the garage door company, is more for a double car garage, not a single. So I think the single comes in 4, and I think we have 3 on the house right now. I believe there's 3.
It looks like there are 2 on the drawing that we're looking at right now. On page 11,
I'm sorry, on the actual house, I'm saying, on the actual house. Can you pull that back up? Maybe you can see it. I can run over there and take a look at it. But the actual picture, I believe if I remember, there was 3 panels across. Not
which
4.
photo are you looking for?
The actual. the actual garage.
Okay.
Not a drawing of the proposed, but the actual garage. No, the one on the left.
Hard to see.
Yeah, it's hard to see, but I believe there's actually 3 small panels.
Yeah, well, I think 3 would actually look more appropriate than the 2 that are shown in the rendering and the elevation.
Unfortunately, no one makes a single that I know of, and my garage door person told me makes, because it's just too small, an opening on a single car garage door. You know what I'm saying? They don't make it. The 4 would be for a double. And I think we provided a picture of a sample that they installed somewhere in Rochester.
I actually think they do make 4 panels, especially, I mean, looking at page 16, for example, page 16 has 4 panels.
I can check it out and see. I mean, I can check it if they make it. I just not sure. I'm just not sure what they.
I guess, yeah, scroll down to page 16, because that illustrates right there, 4 panel, the 4 glazed panels at the garage door. I think that.
Oh, that one though, but those panels go up and down, not they're vertical. They're not horizontal like the ones I have. You know what I'm saying? I believe those are horizontal panels, and I was trying to match the vertical panels we have. If that's something more you prefer, you know, that's fine, but that's not the look I have now.
Yeah, I guess I just think that like right now it looks, the panels are a little bit, I would say they're too horizontal based on the garage.
I guess that's the question. I mean, they're horizontal now, and there's 3 of them. So do we go with the vertical panels like you see in the picture there, and you can have more of them, or do you just go with the horizontal and there'll only be 2 panels?
Can you scroll down a page? Is that possible? Because there's more options. I think.
Carly, could you weigh in?
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's very hard to see this. Sorry, the scan is so bad, but that's the one we picked. And there are options where, you know, like you're saying, those horizontal bands that there's 2 of, where we can break those up a lot. I feel like we did look at those. It just got to be like super choppy. We can show what that looks like again. I think this, just like John is saying, it gets closer to what the door looks like now.
But I think there's a big difference though between 2 and 3. I mean, these are much more horizontal. Like if it was a 3 panel, yeah, I would agree. I think that would be fine. But I think it looks much too like a 1950s ranch garage door.
Yeah, so unfortunately they don't have a 3 in this one, but we could look at the 4.
If it helps, everyone does have original copies, which are much more clear to look at. So if you want to refer to those, I know the scan isn't great.
But I'm almost sure that I talked to the garage door guy just a couple of weeks ago, and he provided the pictures, and I could have sworn he said the 4 panel horizontals would only be on a 2-car garage. So a single car would have to be the 2 panel horizontal. And I think though, if we went with the vertical, like Isaac is proposing, possibly, that I think we could have more panels then. So I think that's.
Well, I think if you look at this diagram, the one right below it looks like it's a single car garage. Right where the cursor is, it was that red arrow. If you scroll back up, like the 4 lights or the plain long, if you go right below it or above it, you can see there are 4 panels, and that's the same width as the one that you're proposing. So I guess I would just
to the right of the red box.
No, to both. So above and below the red. Yeah, above and below the one. That
I think those are the windows, aren't they, Carly? Aren't those the windows? They're not the panel.
Yeah, those are the windows.
Those are the windows, not the panel. So you can have smaller windows. So you can have 4 windows to 2 panels, but you can't have these are the windows. That's all I guess I'm trying to say. They're not the panels.
In an alternate option of this type of door, when they break it up further, they actually break it up into like 8 little panels. You know what I mean? They don't have an option in this one of 4. That makes, like what we have right now, those 2 longer ones, if we put those in the middle, they actually break it down even further. And that's what we did look at and didn't think looked as nice.
Right.
Can I make a comment regarding building code and energy code to that end? Because we're talking about these overhead doors. This is Juan Linares, I'm supporting the staff here regarding building code and energy code. So what is the use of the overhead doors? And how are you going to make them so they're airtight from air infiltration? You know, you have winter, summer, cooling, heating, all that.
Mhm. Well, we'll have to re-pour the slab in the garage, so we'll make sure that there's a good seal at the base. And we'll do our best to seal the sides. I forget the what one we selected, I forget the R value, but it should be in the document. I mean,
Okay.
a lot of the times these will be closed, but we'd like to have the option that in the summer when it's nice out, they can be opened and whatever tenants in there like really activates that little area.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Just want to make that a point there. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and your architect should be doing a energy code analysis of the building too, so that should be part of the building code or the plan submittal. So yeah, no further questions.
Okay, great. If all board members have no further questions, we'll bring it back to Matt. Is there any public comments that need to be read into the record? Anyone from the public would like to speak?
Yes, there is John Lembach, who also submitted public comments, is also here to speak on this case. So we'll move it.
Great. And I'll swear him in again. John, are you with us?
It's just coming on now. So, okay. John, you're all set. You can go ahead and unmute when you're ready.
Am I speaking?
Let me just swear you in again. John Lembach, do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, and we're ready for you.
This is a very interesting project. Too bad more of the buildings on Park Avenue have not had a reasonable adaptive reuse proposed. We like the general area this thing's going. The ornamentation on the front of the building, we believe is in keeping, as Mr. Maggio mentioned, with the main house on the property and also with other storefronts we've seen on Park Avenue. One of the things we're thankful for is not the typical black aluminum glazing that goes in almost everywhere out there to the detriment of the existing building details. We think the proposed use of the building itself will be an asset to the area, something that's long been proposed for all of Park Avenue, but very few houses have actually had any conversions going on. In general, our members have been contacted by our president have expressed support for this, and we think this will be a nice addition to the area. We particularly like the area idea that they're going to minimize the parking lot. Right now, it sort of dominates the place. It hasn't been well kept, and I think with the piers and the hedges and so forth, that'll give it a little more of a residential appeal and be not just a standard parking lot. We're not real big on parking lots in this area, but I think in this case it's justified because it serves not only the two new businesses that are going here, but the existing business for the accountants next door. So with that, our board has recommended that we ask for approval of this particular project. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Anyone else? Matthew?
No other public comment.
All right. If any of the applicants wanted to rebut or speak to anything that Mr. Lembach said, you have the right to. You don't have to, but you're more than welcome to.
No, we just want to thank Mr. Lembach.
Great. Well, thank you. With that, we'll close the public portion. Mr. Worth will take it from here. We're going to deliberate.
And so this portion of the meeting, with the closing of the public hearing, this portion is for the deliberations of the members of the board. There's no participation by the public or applicants, although they're welcome to observe.
Thank you, Tom. We'll start with Karsten Solberg. Karsten, what are your thoughts on this project?
With the various updates that we saw today with the wood doors, the aluminum clad wood windows, I'm generally ready to support the application as it stands.
Great, thank you. Dr. Gam?
I'm very excited about the application. I agree with Kirsten. The updates we saw today only make the project better. I like the wood doors. I like the aluminum wrapped wood windows. My concerns are about the stone piers and the hedge. I would condition my support on them using either boxwood or privet for the hedge. I think the two hedge materials they propose in the application, which I discussed with the applicants, are not appropriate for a front hedge. One is mostly flowers, the other is going to grow very tall and is basically a set of trees rather than a hedge for front on Park Avenue. So I would push for boxwood, giving them the option of boxwood or privet for the hedge. For the stone piers, I really do think that the cultured stone cobblestone look is not an appropriate look for this neighborhood. I was on the preservation board 12 years ago. I'm not going to ask that they undo what was done under the porch, but I would bring big blocks of stone, which is what the foundation of this house is, beautiful blocks of stone, which is an appropriate material for stone piers in this neighborhood, and use those big blocks of stone to build square piers rather than the cultured stone, cobblestone looking material.
All right. Thank you. I would agree with Gerald. I'm going to make it short and sweet. Ed King.
I guess I'm going to agree too on the piers with Gerald and yourself.
All right. And Isaac Brocker.
Yeah, I agree with what's been said. I think the hedges do a good job of screening the vehicles in the parking lot. I still think the garage doors, the glazing panel should be modified to have a narrower panel. I think the horizontal will look too like suburban or too ranch style suburban for this neighborhood. But other than that, I think the project, I would support the project.
Let me just go back to some of the other members with the garage doors. Kirsten, how do you feel about that?
Hey, Chris, can I add something when you go back to him that I should have mentioned?
Please.
We need to figure out how to address the air conditioning units that how or whether to say come back with a proposal or outline something that you would deem acceptable, provided they submit drawings, however you choose to address that. But I think that's one thing they asked to be addressed as part of this.
Yeah, and you can also do, to Tom Worth's point, you can do, I jotted down the roof mounted mechanical equipment option to be approved by the manager of zoning, and they can submit something, and if it shows compliance with that.
Yeah,
that's what I was going to ask.
It would be compliance with section 120-158G are the rules about visibility to wear that Mr. Antonucci was describing.
Okay. Kirsten, did you want to go back to the garage doors?
I would just say I'm fine with them being on the rooftop without knowing their size. We would leave it up to the zoning board. What I don't want to see is a fence around the top of it, on the top of the roof. If the existing parapet hides whatever they're proposing, I'm okay with that. But if they're looking to add additional structure to the top of that roof, I think it needs to go through us.
How do you feel about the garage doors, Kirsten?
I can agree with Isaac. You know, they struck me at first as being a little odd, so I think he verbalized what I would, kind of what I noticed as well.
It was subtle, yeah. Yep. Gerald, how about you?
I have no. I'm fine with whatever we decide about the garage doors. I was okay with the original proposal. I think Isaac's modification improves them, so I don't object to that at all. On the air conditioning, I'm sort of reluctant for us to leave that to desk approval, because I think that looking at the geography of the site, the only places to put the air conditioners would either be on the roof or on the side. Either way, they could potentially be visible to Park Avenue, and it was not part of their original application. And I think it could be a quick approval on our part, but I think this is a case where they should come back to the board.
Okay.
But I think we're saying if they're on the roof and they are of a size that we know that they are lower than the parapet, are we okay letting that be approved by staff?
Yeah, they'd have to demonstrate with drawings, photo stims that it couldn't be seen from Park Avenue.
So I am okay with that. If they can, without making any architectural changes whatsoever to the roof, without putting any fencing up, just leaving the roof as it is, hide a couple of air conditioning units up there that are invisible from the right of way, I don't object. But anything else, I think would need to come to the board.
Ed, how do you feel about the garage doors? Do you agree with Isaac? And also, how do you feel about the air conditioning units?
I could go either way on the garage door and with the air conditioning. If they can put them up there and demonstrate that they're not seen, then, I'd be fine with that.
Okay. I think we have the temperature. It's pretty good. Thank you, everyone. How about Gerald, let's have a motion.
Well, before I make a motion, I'm trying to get the temperature of the board. There's support for boxwood or privet for the hedge. Yes?
Yes, yes.
Sorry,
Sorry, you're right. You're right. Thank you.
For using the large stone from the foundation of the house rather than the cultured stone cobblestone for the stone piers. I guess you're asking me to make the motion and then to see what happens.
Yeah, let's do that.
I'm going to make the motion. So,
does it make sense to do like a straw poll first to see where everyone is?
Yeah.
Well, we kind of did that. We did that on the other items, but you're right. You're right. We should.
Because there's a few moving parts.
Yeah,
there's three issues, right? The stone in the piers, the air conditioning, and a number of panels in the garage doors.
And now the privet boxwoods.
Yeah.
I think we're all
And on
agreeing
the
with all
garage
of the
door
above.
issue, if there is a consensus to go with a change in their paneling, is there something we could point to, like on page 16 or elsewhere in the application as a example of what we'd want as an alternative, or
Isaac?
Or maybe you could just spell it out, like what you.
Isaac, you brought that up. Maybe you could shed some light.
Yeah, I guess I would say, I mean, I would still go back to the image on page 16, I think it was, that had the, it showed the 4-panel door, and it looked like there were like smaller panels below it for the solid panels. So I mean, I would say that something similar to that, maybe without the divided light, the cross divided light at the, so basically just 4 glazed panels with the solid wood panels below.
Okay. So, Gerald, give us a motion, please. I think.
Okay, I'm going to go with a motion.
I think we're at that point.
And this is a motion regarding case number 7A-013-21-22 for a certificate of appropriateness at 200 Park Avenue to convert an existing 4-car garage into a commercial building, which includes a number of exterior alterations and landscaping changes to the yard. My motion is that we support the application with the following conditions. Number 1, that the applicant be permitted to add air conditioning units to the top of the garage, provided that no architectural changes are made to the roof line, no fencing is made to the roof line, and the planning board, the preservation board staff can certify that those air conditioning units are invisible from the street. That's condition 1. Condition 2, that the garage doors be 4 panels across with 4 lights on the top row and then solid wood panels of roughly the same size below the top row of lights.
Gerald, I'm sorry. Say the garage door again. I'm trying to jot all this down.
Oh, I'm sorry, Matt.
No, that's okay. I got the AC units.
That each of the 2 garage doors, that the garage door be 4 row of lights on the top row, and then 4 rows of solid wood panels for perhaps 3 rows underneath, so that they're roughly, those solid wood panels are roughly the same size as the lights. So what I'm imagining, if I'm understanding Isaac, is 4 rows of squares, 4 rows of 4 squares, where the top row is glass, and then the 3 bottom rows, those 12 panels are solid wood looking, understanding that's not a wood door. So 1 is the air conditioner, 2 is the garage door, 3, that the hedge be either boxwood or privet, and 4, that these stone piers be approved, provided that they be constructed out of real stone, not cultured stone, and that the real stone be large blocks of stone to match as closely as possible the foundation stone of the house, not the cobblestone looking piers that were added recently. Matt, did
That was a mouthful.
That was a mouthful.
Good.
You deserve a lot of credit for that motion.
There's a lot going on in my head right now. Is there a second for my motion?
Second.
Okay, a motion has been made by Gerald Gam, properly seconded by Edward Kane. I will call out each board member for their vote. And we'll start with Kirsten. Kirsten, do you vote yay or nay for that motion?
I'll yay it.
Kirsten Solberg is a yay. Gerald Gam.
I'm a yay.
Gerald Gam votes yay for the motion. Next would be me, Christopher Coretta. I vote yay for the motion. Ed Kane.
Yay.
Ed Kane votes yay for the motion. And Isaac Brocker.
Yay.
Isaac Brocker votes yay. It's unanimous 5 votes. Thank you very much for the application and the presentation. That will close this case. Regarding case number 5, they didn't show. We don't have to deliberate, I'm assuming. Is that correct?
You don't have to deliberate. You could just decide to adjourn to a subsequent date because you have a decision point. You could decide on the application, or you could just decide to hold it over. And then the only thing you're required to do that you don't have a choice on is if any people from the public have enrolled to speak, we do have to let that occur.
There's no one signed up to speak from the public.
Yes.
Okay.
So
No
you have the
statements.
option of either proceeding to deliberate on it without the applicant or adjourning to another date.
Okay, Kirsten, how do you feel about that? What would you like to do?
I mean, just because I want to stay up really late, it seems pretty straightforward if we're all ready to just, I mean, you know, you guys want to go through it.
I'm fine with it. How do you
Seems
feel?
Pretty straightforward to me.
I was going to say exactly what Kirsten said. It
just do
seems
it.
like a very straightforward case, a very straighthtforard request, and an easy. So I would deliberate.
Okay, Isaac, how do you feel?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, whenever I saw this, I think this is a no-brainer.
Ed, how about you, Ed King?
Deliberation?
Yeah, I want to stay up late too. Let's deliberate.
Ed, you want to deliberate? Okay,
Let's do it.
let's do it. Let's start with Isaac Brocker. Your thoughts, please.
Like I said, I think this
Given
is a
that there wasn't like testimony where the applicant might have been aiming to get at, you know, the criteria for appropriateness, if you could kind of evaluate the proposal with regard to the criteria in the staff report, that'd be really helpful.
Isaac?
Yeah, so I guess I would say I don't think that there's any really historic value in this garage they're proposing to demolish. So I think it's totally fine. I think it'll actually improve the way the site looks without the garage. And I think extending the wood fence will be a nice addition. So I think this is totally appropriate.
Okay, thank you. Ed Kane?
I agree.
All right, I would be next. I completely agree with that. Dr. Gam?
I would go one step further. I'd say not only is there no historic value to the garage, there's no architectural value to the garage. This was a cheaply built garage when it originally went up, and it's deteriorated over time. And I agree with Isaac. I think it actually improves the property to take the garage down and to extend the wood fence.
Okay, thank you. And Kirsten?
I agree.
Well, that was easy. Can I get a motion, please?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, go ahead, Ed.
A-011-2122, 273 Alexander Street. The motion is to demolish a garage and extend an existing wood fence at the rear of the mixed-use building.
And I would just note extending the fence in kind to the existing. That it
Second.
matches. Yeah.
Ed, your motion is that we approve the application.
Right.
I second that.
Okay, a motion has been made by Ed Kane, seconded by Gerald Gam. I will run down and take a vote. Each member, we'll start with Isaac. Isaac, do you vote yea or nay for this motion?
Yay.
Isaac Brocker votes yea. Ed Kane, yea or nay for this motion?
Yay.
Ed Kane votes yea. Christopher Coretta is next. I vote yea for this motion. Gerald Gam.
I vote yay.
Gerald Gam votes yea for the motion. And Kirsten Solberg.
Yay.
Kristen Solberg votes yay. Unanimous 5 vote for case number 5. That would close this case and should end this meeting.
Thank
Please.
you very much, everyone.
Yes, it will.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone.
I just want to make a shout out to the staff, to Tom and Juan and Andrew and Anna, and especially Matt, who has taken over the last minute, and just thank you all.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.